Pirate's Most Powerful Villain, Chapter 921-940. Chapter 0921-Scared Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Itachi, this kind of criticism must be clarified. As for Emperor Qin, he was even more compelled to see it. Location. Thinking of this, Madara Uchiha asked directly. Ju was in trouble, I didn't say it. According to the information from the corner, Aizen did not leave a specific meeting place. Oh, interesting. Test me first, can you find him? Madara Uchiha grinned, not feeling unpleasant. The whole ninja world is so big, it's as difficult to find someone, especially when there are no clues. But, this is interesting. Having said that, he stood up. Ju, Obito, the tailed beasts will be captured and acted immediately. In addition to the 9 tails, there are only 4 tailed beasts left, and there is more than enough time. At present, 1 tail, 3 tails, 4 tails, 5 tails, and 8 tails have been captured, leaving 2 tails, 6 tails, 7 tails, and 9 tails. 9 tails are naturally placed last, so that only the 3-tailed beasts remain. 1 month is enough. After saying this, Madara Uchiha left alone. He took no one with him, and embarked on the road of finding dreams. He didn't know where Emperor Qin would be waiting for him, but the other party's tone was so loud, obviously it was not just talking. If he couldn't find it, he would have to see how the other party would make him bear the consequences. I hope it doesn't disappoint me. With a flash of eyes, Madara Uchiha immediately launched the psychic beast, psyched out dozens of them at one time, and let them start searching. While he was looking for the dream, Akatsuki also started to capture the tailed beast. Urwei Yumu, in union, was slightly more difficult to capture, and handed it over to Afei and Gon Persimmon Ghost Shark. Q. The 6-tailed rhinoceros Zuli is a high feather in the country of water, rebellious and forbearance, and the difficulty of capturing is low, and he will be handed over to Deidara and the scorpion of red sand. Bing. Nanao Shigeki, Renju Liefeng, and Takian village ninja are less difficult to capture and hand over to Ju. The 3 teams will act separately and are expected to be completed within half a month. With the rapid flow of time, the ninja world suddenly fell into peace, as if Konoha was invaded by multiple parties some time ago. It never happened. However, under this tranquility, a bigger storm is brewing. In just half a month, the Shao organization has successfully captured the 3-tailed beasts, and the formation of the Ninja World Alliance between the 5 major countries, among the 4 major countries, is also progressing rapidly. Because Madara Uchiha's reputation is too great, and the arrogant actions of Akatsuki's organization have recently accelerated this process. Then 25,000 ninjas have gathered in the country of wind, fire, water, and earth, among which there are more than 200 upper ninjas, thousands of middle ninjas, and even more lower ninjas. Nearly 20,000. Such a large-scale operation could not be concealed from the intelligence officers of the Akatsuki organization. And Ju is also accumulating strength and constantly creating Baiju clones. This number is twice that of the allied forces of the ninja world, more than 50,000. But at this time, the 2 sides did not fight, as if they were waiting for something. On this day, somewhere in the battlefield of the Land of Rain. This used to be a battlefield, but now, it is full of vitality and has a long breath. Madara Uchiha stepped here and saw a ruin. The part of the ruins that was exposed to the ground was only a small piece, the size of a door. After walking around for a while, I came back here again. Is there any guidance in the shadows? Madara Uchiha slowly stepped into the ruins, and he found that behind the door was a staircase leading all the way to the underground queue. The interior of the ruins was pitch black, and the more you went underground, the darker it became. Bing. About 100 meters below the ground, Uchiha Madara paused, and the next moment, the surroundings lit up. The next moment, the divine aura gathered and turned into a figure of 10 archangels. This breath, Tsunade's power. Madara Uchiha looked at each other. Who are you? It's finally here, surprisingly slow. Holy Archangel Vivi Isho. I am the Lord of Dreams, Lord of the Sky, Holy Archangel. Master, the same level as another me. Uchiha Madara froze. No, you misunderstood. Liu Daoban is the master of yin and yang, and his strength is higher than mine. Moreover, he is not another you, but has the same power. He is your future posture. The Holy Archangel said lightly. In our dreams, the members are divided into peripheral members, reserve members, core members, cadres, dominant cadres, great masters, deputy leaders, and the above are the masters of dreams. Of course, there are some special existences not included in this list. Quote. Where do you guys come from? You don't use ninjutsu, are you not from this world? Madara Uchiha sneered and said, from another world. Oh, do you know other worlds? Sounds good. The Holy Archangel waved his hand and turned around and said, come with me, Lord Chindi is waiting for you. Other worlds, in the world of Naruto, are considered extremely high-level secrets. Example, Otsutsuki Kagaya came here from a far-away place, and this very far place refers to other worlds. Madara Uchiha followed, is greater than or equal to. The two walked back and forth, continued to go deeper, until they reached the 9th underground floor, and finally came to a hall. A dreamy flag is hung in the hall. On the high platform of the hall, there are 24 seats, but only some of the seats are filled. Among these people, Madara Uchiha saw another himself and Itachi. And in the higher part of the 24 seats, on the throne, Qin Yang sat there leisurely. You're here. You are Emperor Qin. Madara Uchiha raised his eyebrows and looked at the man who had listened to it countless times recently. Looked closely, but find nothing. It was as if it was just an ordinary person who didn't emit any aura. If it wasn't visible to the naked eye, he wouldn't even be able to detect the other person. It seems to be integrated with the space, and it is like a part of nature. How do you talk to Lord Qin Emperor? Suddenly, the man in white grinned and said, kneel down. Boom. The space shook, the snow was blowing, and a cold fog suddenly appeared in the hall. Madara Uchiha's complexion changed, and he said in awe, who is this? It's just the momentum that suppresses me. He gritted his teeth, trying to support his legs from bending forward. However, this was just a thought, but within 3 or 5 seconds, his back had already bent down. You 3.9 is Aizen. Madara Uchiha said in a low voice with an ugly face. Aizen. Shui Sheng Vivi was startled. You think too much. I am Shui Sheng, the master of ice and snow. I am Aizen. Aizen Vivi Isho said, you are not convinced. Weakness and ignorance are not obstacles to survival, arrogance is. Kneel down. Quote. Boom L. Just like a thunderbolt on the ground, Madara Uchiha suddenly felt as if the whole world was about to collapse. With a plop, he held on to his knees for a long time, and suddenly came into close contact with the ground. Impossible. He was shocked. A whisper made him lose his stability, and even his soul trembled, as if he was about to collapse at any time. These monsters, anyone here, I may not be able to fight. As if seeing his thoughts, Qin Yang spoke lightly. Uchiha Madara, you know why I asked you to see me. Chapter 0922-Uchiha Madara's Test. The 6-star Aizen ranks among the top 3 among the many illusions in the dream, and is not something that the current Uchiha Madara can compete with. In particular, what Aizen released was not purely aura, but carried a part of Reiatsu, which was as heavy as a mountain for humans. Madara Uchiha fell to his knees, his face heavy. This organization is too terrifying. It's just the deputy leader, and his momentum alone can suppress me and I can't move. Then Emperor Qin, I'm afraid it is far beyond my understanding. The ceiling, that Ju said is really not enough to see. This is absolutely it's not about the power of the 6th level, but far beyond it. Seeing that he had been silent, Liu Daoban slowly stood up and walked down the stairs. You are curious now, why do you and I have similar appearances and similar abilities? Pause, he continued. First of all, to correct your wrong guess. I am not you, At least, I am not you in this time and space. Huh, Uchiha Madara's brows moved, realizing something. You're right, I am Madara Uchiha from another 24 parallel worlds. In that world, I merged with the 10 tails and became a human pillar force, reaching the level of the 6 realms. Lu Daobin calmly flickered and said, the concept of parallel worlds, I don't need to explain to you, right? Of course, this is thanks to Lord Qin Emperor. In that world, I used brute force to dominate the entire ninja world and dominate the 5 kingdoms. This is my test of joining the fantasy. Quote. It's just a test. Could this guy choose to unify the ninja world in order to join this organization? Uchiha Madara's heart trembled quite a bit. Only listening to Lu Daobin continued, everyone here is in a similar situation. The test is different, but the more difficult the test, the higher the status in the organization after passing, so I am the big master. Do you know Orochimaru? Orochimaru. Phew. He realized this before you, so he's been trying to join us. Guess what his test was? Lu Daobin said playfully. Before waiting for Madara Uchiha to answer, Shui Xing shook his head and said, don't waste time, just say it directly. Let me tell you, Orochimaru's test is to collect 1,000 different and non-repetitive ninjutsu scrolls. He'll be a fantastic perimeter member. 1,000 kinds of ninjutsu, but they are only peripheral members. Of course, it is indeed much simpler than that of the 6 Daobans unifying the ninja world to become the master. Madara Uchiha understood in his heart, so, you just want me to join you when you are looking for me. Thinking, the Holy Archangel smiled. Madara Uchiha had seen this kind of smile, and it was seen on the hostile Senju clan a long time ago. You misunderstood, I will wait and see. I didn't think about it, or I didn't want this attitude. We just gave a test. If you can pass it, you will naturally have the qualification to join or not join. If you can't even pass the test, what will your life and death have to do with me? So that's the case, one more of me is not much, and one less of me is not a lot. Uchiha nodded, not feeling disappointed or angry, but very understandable. This is the attitude of the strong facing the weak. At least at this moment, he is weak, and he may not be able to beat anyone here. You come from other worlds. But that's not right. Some of you are not using ninjutsu. It depends on how you define it. At this time, Juya said loudly, even if I wait for a dream, no one can break the wall of the world except Lord Qin Emperor. It means that Qin Yang has this ability if he wants to go to other worlds. Really? Madara Uchiha didn't fully believe it, but instead asked, there are 24 seats here, but most of them are vacant. The members are dead, or... There is a task at hand, Itachi said coldly. The giant dragon army, the sea beast army, the undead army, and the element army, are fighting in different worlds in 4 armies. There are currently 3 worlds, and the expedition is about to be completed. Hiss. Madara Uchiha breathed a sigh of relief. When they were still obsessed with one village and one country, this organization had already targeted the world one by one. Thinking of this, his eyes flickered, and he already had a resolution in his heart. How could he miss such a good opportunity? Without dreaming, his limit is the 6 levels, that is, the ceiling, which is the 6 spots in front of him. The lifespan is limited, as strong as the immortals of the 6 paths, and they are not dead. How can Madara Uchiha be reconciled? He has greater ambitions, and for stronger power, joining Dream is the best choice. Thinking of this, he took a deep breath and said, what is my test? He. Qin Yang chuckled twice and said slowly, your test is very simple. Destroy the 5 kingdoms and unify the ninja world. The time limit is 15 days. 15 days. Madara Uchiha's complexion changed slightly, which was not unusually difficult. Basically, he wanted to push the allied forces of the shinobi world flatly, and then go to destroy the country of thunder by the way. It's almost the end of your collection of tailed beasts, there are still 9 tails left. Qin Yang said. Yes, but something went wrong with the 9 tails. The power of the Nine Tails is very weak. Has he died once? That, Juya haha Isho, said, I ate Juwei 067 once, and the current Juwei is still being resurrected. Shan Uchiha Madara's face darkened. This group of people was so violent that they could even eat tailed beasts. Suddenly, Chin-Young flicked his fingers, and a group of orange-yellow chakra broke into Uchiha Madara's body. This is... Madara Uchiha's pupils shrank, revealing a look of astonishment. This is half of the nine-tailed chakra, yin attribute. It was originally sealed in the body of the Shinigami by Minato Namikaze, but I took it here, and now I give it to you. Chin-Young waved his hand and said, there are only 15 days, you can do it. When the time is up, if you can't finish it, I will wait to start the romance. Aizen said, it's our turn to clear the field. That's not the world of ninjas. At that time, the whole world will be smashed to pieces. You can prepare yourself mentally. I know. Uchiha Madara lowered his head. Suddenly, the space changed. Chin-Young waved his hand, moved the space, and threw him directly out of the great underground tomb of Nazarick. After the others disappeared, Chin-Young shook his head. The nine-tailed beasts are gathered together. Although the nine tails only have half the power, it is more than enough to fuse them into 10 tails. Uchiha Madara will soon evolve into 6 spots. He stretched his waist, got up and walked towards the guild warehouse. The time in this world is running out. Chapter 0923-Final Battle. On this day, many keen people found something wrong. Many ninjas in the village had changed and seemed to be carrying out some kind of secret operation. However, this kind of thing is just a little trivial matter in life, and no one will pay too much attention to it. In a tree hole in the ground, the white Jew like a legion is densely packed, occupying the entire area. At first glance, it looks like a termite nest, extremely terrifying. And not far from this group of termites, a golem is devouring the power of the tailed beast. As the last trace of the 8-tailed beast chakra was swallowed, Kurabi also died completely. Under the golem, several members of the Shao organization wearing black robes with red clouds breathed a sigh of relief. In the end, there are only 9 tails left. The masked man said in a low voice, the next step is to attack Konoha with all his strength and capture the power of the 9 tails. Sir Ban, Ju looked at Madara Uchiha and said, the number of Baiju has reached 60,000. Which is enough to deal with the allied forces of the ninja world. The only problem is that there is a lack of some high-end combat power. Don't worry about that, I got a helper. Madara Uchiha clapped his hands and said, come out. As soon as the voice fell, a laughter came, followed by a python slowly swimming, and then the snake head turned into a human appearance. Orochimaru. Kurohue looked surprised, I didn't expect it to be you. He didn't know what method Madara used, and contacted Orochimaru. He never dreamed of it. Madara contacted Orochimaru and made a lot of things. As long as he joined the dream, then he would definitely assist Orochimaru and help him pass the test. This premise is not even needed, as long as it is in the action of unifying the ninja world, Orochimaru can collect scrolls by himself. Q. The combination of the two is nothing but mutual benefit. 7. The guy who quit back then came back. Deidara grinned Isho, speaking of which, I should call you a senior. Hey, Orochimaru alone is useless. Gon Persimmon Ghost Shark said. The opponents are the 4 great kingdoms, and there are more than 10 of them at the shadow level alone. Who told you that I am alone? Dry Persimmon Ghost Shark, don't you know that there is such a ninjutsu in the world? Orochimaru changed from a snake form to a human form, then clasped his hands together, and shouted, reincarnation of the dirt. Boom boom boom. Under the earth, many coffins suddenly emerged. Coffins were unearthed one after another, and the lids of the coffins were opened, revealing surprising faces underneath. It's really surprising, I didn't expect you to collect so many corpses. Baiju murmured. With this batch of combat power, it should be no problem to deal with the allied forces of the ninja world. Hearing the words, Madara Uchiha said immediately, Then, let's start right away. Ju, you send out the Baiju troops first, and launch a general attack on Konoha tomorrow. Yes. The Country of Fire, Konoha. The Ninja World Coalition Army, the temporary combat headquarters, and Senju Hashima served as the commander-in-chief. At this moment, in the conference room, the senior leaders of the 4 major countries are gathered here. Unfortunately, there is a piece of news that I haven't received until now. Chisuma Shizuku shook his head and said, the 8-tailed man of the Kingdom of Thunder, Chirabi, has disappeared. The disappearance was more than half a month ago, but until now, the news just came out. Quote. According to this, Akatsuki has at least 6 of the 9 big-tailed beasts. Terumi Mei's expression changed slightly. There are still 3, 7, and 9 tails left. No, probably, only 9 tails are left, Q. Minato Namikaze sighed and said, some time ago, I investigated the Kingdom of Rain where Akatsuki's organization is located, and found some clues. Only 9 tails left. The hearts of those present sank all of a sudden. Isn't this bad? If the 9 tails are all succeeded by them, what can we fight against? Onogi shuddered when he thought about it. No one knows the power of the 9-tailed beasts better than us. For Hokage, you were the same. The one who died because the 9-tailed runaway was just a tailed beast, a 9-headed tailed beast. Don't panic, what is it that we are in a mess? Chinsho Hashirama reassured. The top priority is to send Naruto to a safe place first, and we must not expose him to Akatsuki. With that said, everyone looked at the Watergate. In this regard, Chang Watergate is a little embarrassed. This is his son. Everyone already knows this kind of thing. I talked to Naruto, but he has one condition. Minato Namikaze was helpless. Negotiating conditions with my father is really a headache. No, before that, my unqualified father didn't have the qualifications either. Complain. What conditions? Tsunade asked. It's a very difficult time, and he can't be fooled. Our original plan was to have Master Jiraiya send him to Mt. Miyagi, and Naruto agreed, but on the condition that he brings Sasuke Uchiha. Namikaze Minato explained. Jiraiya, who only returned to Konoha the day before yesterday, was very calm about what happened to Konoha. During the time he was away, he seemed to have experienced something, and the whole person was sublimated. It is precisely because of Jiraiya's return that they want to send Naruto to Miaomu Mountain. Otherwise, the original plan was to send it to the sacred wetland forest of Tsunade. Agree to his conditions. Chisato Hasuma was silent for a moment before smiling. I have heard about Sasuke Uchiha. He is just a child who was deceived and used, and he did it before. Everything can be forgiven. Since you said so, of course we don't have any opinion. Tsunade nodded and said, come and inform Jiraiya. Konoha, a rocky place. Sasuke Uchiha's injury has been healed and his eyes have returned to light, but he lost his Sharingan, and his current eyes were transplanted to him by Lu Daozan, the eyes of ordinary people. As for why the 6 path spots have to do it many times in one fell swoop, it is naturally for Indra. Sasuke. At this time, Naruto Uzumaki came behind him and said, the lecherous immortal wants to take me to the place where immortals live, where I can learn immortal arts. Do you want to come together? Naruto. Sasuke Uchiha slowly turned around and looked at his former teammate. His expression was very calm. After a death, he grew up completely. Is it Shanshu? I've lost my Sharingan. As long as I can become stronger, I'm willing to go anywhere. Sasuke Uchiha said calmly, the hatred can be put down first, but to resurrect Itachi, you must have strength. I'll go with you, Naruto. Very good, then come with me. Chapter 0924_Ancestor of Chakra. This large-scale march, the Ninja World Alliance naturally got the news, and immediately dispatched troops to prepare to fight. The 2nd, 3rd, and 4th armies of the allied ninja world were led by Brother Gaara, Onogi, and Terumi Mei. Each army had about 5,000 ninjutsu people. As for the general headquarters of Konoha village, 3,000 ninjas and 5-tailed Hokage were left. At the same time as the final battle between the two sides broke out, Qin suddenly came over a waterfall in the Land of Fire. He stood on top of a huge humanoid statue, staring at the outbreak of war. It's started, it's finally coming to an end. He gently isho, like an old man fishing, quietly waiting for the fish to take the bait. This is the Valley of the End, with the statue of Madara Uchiha on the left, and the stone statue of Senju on the right. Between the two, a waterfall that flows past hangs down like a sky and gathers in the big river below. Come out, do you still want to hide your tiny space power? Suddenly, Qin 963 Yang glanced at the right side and spoke lightly. I saw ripples in the space, the vortex filled the air, and then, a man wearing a mask slowly emerged. Should I call you Uchiha Qin, or Dream Emperor Qin? The masked man said softly. Uchiha Qin, it didn't exist from the beginning. Qin shook his head with a calm expression. You don't go to war with Konoha, what do you want to do when you come to such a place? Don't you know this kind of thing? The masked man stretched out his hand, grabbed his mask, and slowly took it off, revealing his underground appearance. My name is Uchiha Obito, a person who once died. My purpose has always been clear, but one day I suddenly discovered that there are more shortcuts to take in the world. 7. Uchiha Obito discarded the mask and looked at Qin, and said in a leisurely tone, this shortcut is so tempting for 34 people. More than half a month ago, I won the Phoenix Feather from Tsunade, the 3 Phoenix Feather. I revived Madara Uchiha. I wanted to keep one and use it to revive another person, but I owed Madara a life. At that time, I paid off his kindness. In the end, I also helped him collect Tail Beast. I don't owe anyone anymore. Then what? I'm free, what the Akatsuki organization wants to do, to be honest, I don't care anymore. Uchiha Obito whispered. I don't know my power, can I work for you? Qin couldn't help but laugh. This is to be sent to him as a younger brother, but unfortunately, Uchiha Obito's strength is completely disliked by him. You have something to ask of me. I want the resurrection technique. Uchiha Obito said. I've been thinking a lot these past few days, what is important to you and can be traded. In the end, I found these. Saying that, he took out a scroll and untied the seal. With a bang, white smoke flashed, and countless scrolls fell like rain, piling up in front of him. I took out all the ninjutsu scrolls collected by Akatsuki. There are more than 1,700 copies here. I wonder if they can exchange for resurrection. 1,700 copies, which is the largest number ever. Qin glanced at it a little and found that most of them are still repeated, and the really useful ones are less than 500. Aren't you afraid of my brute force? You should know that your magic power is meaningless in front of me. If you wanted to do this, you could have done it long ago. I don't know how strong you are, but since you can subdue that 6 Daioban, there must be no one in this world that is your opponent. And you are not like that. Do explain, you have your own set of rules of conduct. If you like to trade, then I will trade with you. If these are not enough, please speak up, I will do anything I can do. Quote. Uchiha Obito seemed very calm. Facing Qin, he was neither afraid nor arrogant, but rather sincere. It's a headache, you say that, but I don't have an excuse to do it. Qin shook his head with a laugh, and said, if you want resurrection, I will teach you, but you can't learn it. Let's be honest, who do you want to resurrect? Nohara Lin. Besides him, there's Kakashi. Uchiha Obito's expression changed a bit in Vivi. He's dead, I know. Please take action and revive these two. No problem, for me, it makes no difference whether to resurrect one person or two. Qin nodded, waved his hand, and rolled up the scroll on the ground. Time is long. The next moment, in front of him, the space is mysterious, and a long silver river traverses things. At this moment, as if the whole world has changed. Uchiha Obito saw that Qin was like a giant, standing outside the long river of time, and in the long river, the scene of the number of sands of the Ganges emerged. These scenes are constantly flashing back and forth. The past, the future, and the present are all in this river. What did you see? Chinyong asked with a smile. I saw the future, Uchiha Obito murmured. I died, I lent Kakashi the power of my Sharingan, and Kakashi used Susanoo to cooperate with Uzumaki Naruto. Human and Sasuke Uchiha defeated a woman. Who is that? That was the ancestor of Chakra, a woman named Kagaya Otsutsuki. Chinyong said in a low voice. It can be said that I waited for the dream to come to this world, most of the purpose is to come to her. One who was sealed by his own child, after resurrection, tried to pursue the way of immortality, but failed again. Sad man. Between the words, Chinyong suddenly stretched out his hand and probed into the long river of time and space. Following his movements, the long silver river suddenly solidified, then slowly shattered, and two figures quickly emerged. One was a girl, 12 or 13 years old, and the other was a young man. It was Hitaki Kakashi. Seeing this scene, Uchiha Obito was shocked. This incredible power to reverse time and space has subverted his worldview. Are you a god? He couldn't help muttering. God. Ha ha ha, in a sense, I am. Chinyong chuckled and said, I am the phantom god. Everywhere, like a dream, the master of the world. Following his words, Rin Nohara and Kakashi Hitaki opened their eyes in unison. Are you Obito? Lin. Uchiha Obito looked excited, but at this moment, a black shadow suddenly appeared in his body. This shadow suddenly enveloped half of his body. The next moment, a ghostly voice sounded. You will betray. I have already noticed this kind of thing, Obito, I am very disappointed. That voice was absolutely black. Chapter 0925-6 spots. Uchiha Obito's complexion changed slightly, and he was shocked to find that his body was a little out of control. It's useless, your struggle is meaningless. As early as when you were first rescued, Madame Madara left a mark on your body. Your half-body was given by Madame Madara, including mine. Strength, this is to prevent that one day, you will no longer be obedient. I didn't expect it to be used. It's a pity, Obito, your body is still useful to us. Hearing this, Uchiha Obito showed a struggle, and the two wills started to fight over the control of the body. It's just that, obviously, Uchiha Obito collapsed quickly and lost control of his body. I have used the phoenix feather to resurrect Madara, the 9 big-tailed beasts, and 8 of them have already gathered. Why are you still sticking to me? I am not interested anymore. My purpose has been achieved. I will not stop you from acting, and will not turn back to help the ninja, sighed. Uchiha Obito's tone was very bad and he looked angry. Who knows, your combat power is still very valuable. In the operation to capture the 9 tails, your power is needed, Obito. Black must sneer. Looking at this scene, Lin and Kakashi, who had just been resurrected, were full of dull expressions. Kakashi is okay. The time period for his resurrection is the moment before his death, when he is about to be suppressed by the black coffin, so although he is surprised by the change in Obito's appearance, at least he can recognize it, and he also knows another will in Obito. What is the situation? But the girl Lin was stunned. She died very early, and she could barely recognize Kakashi and Obito. As for what happened now, what was the situation, she was completely at a loss. What the hell is going on? I'm not dead, Nohara Rin murmured in surprise. Suddenly, Kakashi looked at Chinyong and said with a shaky expression, you resurrected us. Don't thank me, it's Uchiha Obito's deal. The old god Chinyong was there, looking at Heiju. Heiju controlled Obito's body, looked at Chinyong, and said, you won't interfere, will you? No, my deal with him is over. His life or death has nothing to do with me. Hee, that's fine. Heiju smiled. Dream Emperor Chin, I heard what I said just now. Are you here for mother? Really? Chinyong was noncommittal. He knew early on that Uchiha Obito had the power of Baiju in his body, and Heiju had been monitoring Obito all the time. He also said that he was amused by what he said before. Mother, comes from another world, are you the same? Are you here to take her back? Forget it, it's not important, since you want to see your mother, will the resurrection help me? Black said bluntly. No need, my eyes can see into the future, and in 14 hours, your mother will come back to life. With or without my strength, the result will be the same. Chinyang said lightly. You go, don't be an eyesore in front of me, I don't like gloomy guys very much. Then borrow your auspicious words. Heiju controlled Obito and left quickly. Seeing this, Kakashi's expression changed and he said, can you explain what happened? If you want to know the answer, go to Konoha, you will naturally know. However, if you die, don't expect me to save you a second time. Chinyang shook his head, turned around and took a step. Stepping out, the figure merged into the space and disappeared without a trace in an instant. At the same time, the Baiju Army and the Ninja World Coalition have collided head-on. In terms of numbers, Shao Organization has an absolute advantage here, but in the final analysis, these avatars of Baiju are worrying about their combat power, and the final thing to look at is high-end combat power. Q_. On the side of the Ninja World Coalition, I thought that high-end combat power was an absolute advantage. After all, there were more than 200 people here, and more than 10 people at the shadow level. But after the collision broke out directly, these ninjas were shocked to find that many masters who once had names and surnames had all come alive. 5 of the 7 ninja swordsmen, Ringo Yuli, Tongsao Yebiran, Li Yuxuanwan, Wuli Jinba, Ziguashan Puffer Ghost, Elite Shangnan. The former leader of Yurin Village, Sanjiao Yu Hanzo, is a movie class. Union Village Ninja, Jinyan Brothers, together, they once made Shinsho Tobarama like a desperate situation, and the combined strength of the two is comparable to the shadow level. Union Village Ninja, Troy, user of magnetic escape, powerful. Sand Ninja Village Ninja, Pakula, user of burning escape, first-class strength. Ninja of Yenian Village, Hunter, user of explosive escape, first-class strength. Konoha Village, Hyuga Ripa, Hyuga Hazu, Kato Duan, and the 3 contemporary Pig Deer Butterfly, etc., are all above the level of Shangnan, Elite Shangnan. And besides that, there's Uchiha Itachi. Although Itachi had buried the body in Konoha, Orochimaru dug up the body when he attacked Konoha some time ago. Of course, these filthy reincarnators can only be regarded as thugs, and the real elites are Hokage from all dynasties. The second generation of Earth Shadow No. Second generation of Water Shadows, Ghost Lights and Magic Moon. 3 generations of Reikage. 4 generations of Fengniang Luasha. Is greater than or equal to. Such a large-scale army of filthy reincarnation, the destructive power it burst out is terrifying. In the 3 frontal battlefields, the allied forces of the ninja world were suddenly defeated and retreated, calling for support one after another. However, at the same time as the war broke out on the front line, an uninvited guest had arrived in Konoha village. On the temporarily built fence, Madara Uchiha quietly looked at the entire Konoha. Although most of the village is in ruins, there are still many ninjas patrolling. The final scene, Hasuma, you and Konoha of Fire will disappear into this world together. Between the words, his hands were sealed. Boom! A burst of white smoke flashed, and behind him, the figure of the golem emerged. This caught the attention of the patrols, who sounded the alarm. Intruder, Madara Uchiha. An ant, please call me Ludaoban. Madara Uchiha snorted coldly, and saw that the golem turned into chakra and quickly poured into his body. Immediately afterwards, his long hair was quickly dyed white, and behind him, there were even 9 seeking jades condensing. From today onwards, I am 6 Paths Immortal Ban. Chapter 0926_Otsutsuki Kagaya. At this moment, Uchiha Madara sucked power and officially became the 10-tailed person's pillar force, successfully breaking through the shadow level and reaching the level of the 6th Path Immortal. His body slowly flew up, standing in the void. Behind him, 9 Taoist jades appeared one by one, and at the same time, a scepter was condensed from yin and yang on the right hand. Its posture is almost exactly the same as the phantom body with 6 spots. Sheila, will you only send a group of cannon fodder to die? Lu Daoban snorted coldly, Shanfa Lan Dungguang Fang. He opened his mouth and shot out a purple laser, similar to the water gun of the water escape, but with extraordinary power. The crowd gathered in front of the allied forces of the ninja world was swept away by this laser, and dozens of people were killed in an instant. Seeing this, the rest became even more shocked and evacuated. Monster! What kind of ninjutsu is this? Someone shouted in horror. It was just scratched. Just then, a dragon roar came from afar. Wood done wood dragon technique. Roar. Along with the roar, above the ground, a wooden dragon sprang out and quickly bit at Lu Daoban. Ken is out, Hasuma. Lu Daoban's face was indifferent, but he just stretched out his fingers and took a little space. Immediately, one of the Dao jade in his hand flew out, and it was crushed directly. The wooden dragon bombarded the Taoist jade and disappeared in an instant. Ninjutsu doesn't work for me, you still have more powerful moves. Don't hide them, try them all out, after all, this is your last chance. Quote. The next moment, the 5 figures appear one after another, which is the Hokage of the past dynasties 7. Chisho Tobarama said in surprise. Mu Yan was erased. That black ball. Compared to the last time, Madara's power has risen to a new level. Senju Hashirama's face was heavy. Everyone, it seems that if you don't fight to the death today, the world will be destroyed by him. Destroyed by me. Hearing this, Lu Daoban smiled. Don't get me wrong, I am the savior, I will create a world without disputes, and I am the god of the new world. Pause, he shook his head again. The strength of the 5 of you, combined, is nothing more than that. The only thing worth seeing is you, Tsunade. He looked at Tsunade and saw that the other party exuded a divine radiance, quite similar to the divine archangel he had seen. Tsunade said, don't hesitate, follow the plan. I'll restrain him. As he said that, the power of the holy light soared, and Tsunade's whole body was covered with a layer of white light, like a saint. The next moment, she moved suddenly, her figure turned into a stream of light, and she rushed towards the 6 spots in the air. Although I don't know what you are paying attention to, I will not be careless and use the strongest force to solve you. Lu Daoban frowned, and the next moment, a gap appeared between his eyebrows. While a trace of blood flowed down, the third eye slowly opened. It was a blood-colored Rinnegan, and above the eyeballs, 9 black hook jade appeared. What kind of eyes are these? Tsunade was shocked and suddenly stopped. She felt an unimaginably huge pupil power, far surpassing Rinnegan and Sharingan, which she had only seen in her life. Unlimited monthly reading. Madara roared, and above the night sky, the moon emitted a dazzling white light, and the light was projected onto the earth. This kind of light can penetrate even shadows, and nothing can block it. Under the shroud of this brilliance, the entire Konoha's ninjas were all bound by this godlike illusion. In a world without strife, in this illusion, you will experience beauty, happiness, and dream. This is the eye of God, the power of reincarnation to right round eyes. The 6 spots are like gods, staring at everything. Under the power of infinite moon reading, only Tsunade escaped, and everyone else was stunned by illusions, and they all froze in place, as if their souls were not there. Grandpa, second grandpa, 3rd generation, Watergate. Tsunade was shocked. I'm fine. Why? Because of the power of the holy light. No, because of the dream. Lu Daoban slowly fell and landed in front of Tsunade, saying, your power comes from the holy archangel. Even if I reach the level of the 6 paths immortal, I still have no confidence to deal with the dream. To you, my subordinate, I'll be merciful, but I won't let you get in my way. Between the words, he slapped the palm of his hand. God, the tree world is coming. Using the power of the 10 tails, he uses the power of the 10 tails to unleash the Koku ninjutsu on the whole world. I saw the earth surging, and the thick roots of the trees came alive like long snakes. These roots stretched out countless branches, capturing all the people who had been reading the infinite moon, tying them into dumplings and hanging them on the branches. Tsunade couldn't escape this range, and she was also bound by this force. The so-called Ninja World Alliance is so vulnerable in the face of absolute power. In just a short while, in the entire Konoha, only Liu Daoben was still able to move. At this time, a figure emerged from the ground. It was a dark figure, grinning. Shan, Lord Madara, within Konoha's range, no nine-tailed kid was found. Hearing this, Liu Daoben frowned. What? Although I have gathered all the nine-tailed beasts, the other half of the nine-tailed chakras are also very important, otherwise. However, just as his words fell, suddenly, his chest hurt. Puff. After a light and crisp sound, a black palm pierced through 6 spots. Heiju. Liu Daoben widened his eyes and looked back. Heiju grinned and said with a low smile, Madara, your mission has been completed, you can leave the stage. What? Liu Daoben opened his mouth and felt an inexplicable force of 4.4 in his body that was rapidly expanding. You betrayed me. You were created by me. No, I was not created by you, the will behind me is Kagaya-ji. Ju sneered. Unfortunately, Madara, although I don't know what kind of agreement you and Dream have reached, it doesn't matter, they won't save you. After confirming this, you are useless. Next, let us meet the ancestor of chakra, Kagaya, Sama Otsutsuki is coming. Quote. Puff. Suddenly, Liu Daoben's body swelled several times, and a head of white hair grew rapidly, like white hair 3,000 feet, covering the entire field of vision. The reincarnation writing wheel eye on its forehead seems to be alive, exuding huge pupil power. A new will, replacing Madara Uchiha, came. Chapter 0927_origin. In terms of appearance alone, Chinyang can give him 8 points, the key is his outstanding temperament. I'm back in this world again. Kagaya Otsutsuki slowly opened his eyes, it was a pair of white eyes, and there was a little emotion in the eyes. Is a long lost, finally seeing a trace of joy in the light. Mother. In her wide-sleeve tube, a black strange figure drilled out half of her head, officially absolutely black. With less chakra, the 10 tails are not perfect. After the resurrection, Kagaya Otsutsuki noticed the abnormality for the first time. The 9-tailed man's pillar strength has not yet been captured, only the 9-tailed yin attribute chakra is fused, and the other half is hidden. Black Jew quickly explained. In fact, it is not hidden, the 9-tailed yang attribute chakra has been eaten by the 9 masters long ago, and the 9-tailed chakra owned by the current 9-tailed man Zuli, Uzumaki Naruto is far less than half, it is the freshman 9-tail. Huh. Suddenly, Kagaya Otsutsuki looked forward. 24 I saw ripples in the space, and ripples appeared as plain as water. Then, the man in white walked out slowly. Congratulations, the princess of the Otsutsuki family. Chinyang smiled lightly, put his hands behind his back, and looked at the woman from a distance, but I've been waiting for a long time. Seeing his appearance, Otsutsuki Kagaya's pupil Vivi froze. In her perception, the person in front of her has no breath, as if it does not exist in this world. Roll your eyes. She subconsciously made chakra focus on her eyes, trying to see everything clearly. However, even under the power of the white eyes, the scene in front of him is beyond this dimension. Absolutely, who is he? Kagaya Otsutsuki was surprised. Dream Chin Emperor, from another world. Mother, this guy is very strong, the purpose of coming here is you, be careful. Heiju's voice came from the sleeve again. Don't be so nervous, I'm not here to take you back. Chinyang, Vivi Isho, said, I have nothing to do with the Otsutsuki clan. I am not here to arrest you, nor to kill you, nor to stop you from immortality. Speaking of which, the origin of Otsutsuki Kagaya is also very mysterious. She came from another world, the princess of the Otsutsuki clan, and she was born with white eyes. In order to seize the fruit of the divine tree, she came to this land. After eating the fruit of the divine tree and becoming the first generation of 10-tailed people, she became the ancestor of Chakra, and opened the reincarnation writing wheel on her forehead. After that, they gave birth to 2 sons, Otsutsuki Yui and Otsutsuki Yumura. The former is the six-path immortal spread in the ninja world, the successor of Rinnegan and the body of the immortal, and the latter is the ancestor of the Hinata family, that is, the successor of the Bayan bloodline. Of course, it is said that she gave birth to a child, but in fact this woman does not have a husband. It is not the problem of having children before marriage, but because of the fruit of the divine tree, not to mention that she is an ascetic. After that, she gradually became greedy, performed infinite monthly reading, and was finally sealed by her 2 children. The 10-tailed body became the moon, and the 10-tailed chakra was divided into 9 parts, which was later called the 9-tailed beast. You are very strong, your strength is not in line with my perception. Kagaya Otsutsuki spoke softly and said, I can't observe your existence, this feeling is as if you were detached from this world. Qin Yang was noncommittal. He is now a 7-star phantom god. As far as combat power is concerned, Otsutsuki Kagaya is far behind, at most equivalent to a 6-star phantom body, similar to World Lord, and Aizen, Hyukyuming. What's your purpose in looking for me? Kagaya Otsutsuki asked. I'm here for 4 reasons. Madara Uchiha, Sasuke Uchiha, Jiwei, and the fruit of the god tree. Qin Yang chuckled and said, let's start with the first one, and give me Madara Uchiha. Hearing this, Otsutsuki Kagaya frowned slightly. The first few were fine, they were useless anyway, but where did she go to find the fruit of the divine tree? The divine tree is 10 tails, and now she is the 10-tailed person Zuli. Qin Yang wants 10 tails, doesn't he want to strip her power? Sure enough, the visitor is not good. Kagaya Otsutsuki snorted lightly, then immediately stretched out his hand and punched, 80 God's air strike. Her meticulous fist, punched out from the air, maximized chakra, and directly projected countless huge fist shadows. Obviously I can tell that my strength is much higher than yours, do you still dare to take action? Princess Otsutsuki, do you think I won't kill you? Qin Yang's face was indifferent, and he punched out the same way, shattering the vacuum in an instant. Boom. All attacks are within the concept of space, but Qin Yang's punch will shatter even the space. Otsutsuki Kagaya, S80 God's air strike, without even setting off a splash, annihilated along with the annihilation of space. Seeing this, Otsutsuki Kagaya couldn't help falling a drop of cold sweat. What a terrifying guy, is this guy a human? That punch just now has no energy fluctuations, just pure brute force. She couldn't understand, although she also possessed a powerful space ability, Qin Yang's power to shatter the vacuum still surpassed her knowledge and cognition. Highway was so frightened that he blurted out, Mother, it's better to withdraw here first. The 10-tailed chakras have not been collected yet, so it is not wise to fight him. Without his reminder, Kagaya Otsutsuki wanted to withdraw, and just hit him. The temptation has made her sure that the opponent's strength is incredible. Yellow Spring Hirazaka. Thinking of this, Kagaya Otsutsuki reached out again and grabbed the space. As if calling the door of 850 in another world, her figure shuttled and sneaked into the different space. I don't want to be an enemy. What you want is your freedom, but Jiwei, I won't give it to you. This is Madara Uchiha. At the moment of disappearance, Kagaya Otsutsuki threw Madara Uchiha out. It's just that Uchiha Madara at this moment has lost the power of the 6 paths, lost the reincarnation writing wheel eye, and fell into a coma. Then, the gate of space disappeared. Qin Yang shook his head, it's really difficult to communicate, can't you just listen to me and finish what I have to say? Between the words, a white light flickered, and 6 spots of the phantom body emerged. With Uchiha Madara, it can probably reach 6 stars. Wanshi Ludao Madara said solemnly, there is a certain degree of danger, but this is the fastest way. Qinyang ignored this, and with a flick of his finger, the space in front of him suddenly opened a door. That is the move used by Kagaya Otsutsuki. It's a bit of a headache. No accident, the fruit of the divine tree is the origin of this world. The moment I saw Kagaya Otsutsuki, I was basically sure, but how do I integrate this origin? Now, Kagaya Otsutsuki can be it is the fruit of the tree of gods. Qinyang thought about it, and with a movement, he had already entered the different space. The next moment, the scene changed, and Kagaya Otsutsuki reappeared in his field of vision. How did you get in? Philo reminds you, there are 3 things in reading: collection, recommendation and sharing. Do Junhu. Original works of Philo Novel Network, and enjoy the joy of reading. Chapter 0928-Phantom Fusion. A different world created by the eyes. And GT. The whole sky is yellow-green, with the earth at the foot, and the weathered peaks towering. This space is full of strangeness. How did it come in? Of course, the gate of opening came in. Qinyang said calmly, your spatial ability is outstanding. In this world, there are no more people who are better than you in this area. Even Uchiha Obito's divine power is far worse than your ability. But, in the final analysis, it is also a subspace. All subspaces must rely on the main world. In this regard, I am much stronger than you. Qinyang is the master of the world, and he is the master of many worlds. Kagaya-ji is at most the creator of the subspace, and the two are no longer on the same level in terms of space cognition. What do you want? Kagaya Otsutsuki gritted his teeth. Do you have to force me to shoot? I also have a headache. I am bound to get the fruit of the divine tree, but the fruit has already been eaten by you. You are the fruit of the divine tree itself. Qinyang talked eloquently. Although I can reverse the time and space and go back to the time when you couldn't eat the fruit, it doesn't make any sense to do so. That is the origin of the world, and the interference of the world's will is more troublesome. In comparison, you are better to deal with. Quote. Although he didn't quite understand it, Kagaya Otsutsuki probably understood what the other party meant. I'm better to deal with, pick soft persimmons. Otsutsuki Kagaya was angry. Since you think so, then try it. Between words, her chakra increased rapidly, reaching 100 times that of the shadow level in an instant. Being in the starting ball space, she can absorb the chakra of the ninjas who have fallen into the infinite moon reading. It can be said that the current Kagaya Heim is equivalent to the sum of the chakras of all the ninjas in the entire ninja world. Don't worry, I have a proposal. Phew. Qinyang put his hands on his back, still very calm. Even if you absorb everyone's chakra, you are not my opponent. It is not a problem of energy intensity, but the difference in level. How do you know if you don't try? Kagaya Otsutsuki looked cold and bright. I'm more curious, how far can you achieve? Is your brain broken? Qinyang was a little speechless, and it wasn't that the woman couldn't see the difference between the two, so she still wanted to provoke him. Really forget it. Thinking of this, Qinyang Vivi stretched out his hand, and then pressed and grabbed towards the ground. Pumping the power of the sun, moon and stars. Boom. The entire space of the origin ball was shaken, and at the same time, there was the Naruto world, the mountains and the earth, the rivers and the oceans, and all things with life, all of which were separated into a breath. These breaths spanned the distance of the space and appeared in Qinyang's palm. Between. This is. Kagaya Otsutsuki was shocked, with an incredible look on his face. In Qinyang's palm, a sphere of life was born. Chakra itself is life energy, but above the level, it is weaker than this one. You can absorb the chakras of the ninjas who have entered the infinite moon reading, and after gathering them, you can indeed explode with extraordinary power, but, compared to this, it is far worse. Qinyang threw the ball of life with a light toss. The next moment, the sphere expanded rapidly, and in an instant, the entire starting sphere space was filled. This space is not infinite. After reaching the limit, cracks appeared in the sky and the earth, and then smashed it completely. And with the fragmentation of the initial ball space, the life force that gathered the forehead also disappeared quickly and returned to 2 natural. What is this? Kagaya-ji opened her mouth and looked at Chin Young in a daze. God. Do you understand? There is an essential gap between us. The pure energy level is meaningless. Besides, even if it is energy, you are far behind. Chin Yang's full blow can project his power into the depths of the universe and smash the planet. At this point, Otsutsuki Kagaya is still too tender. Seeing this, Otsutsuki Kagaya showed a trace of confusion. She even wondered if she had fallen into illusion, but it was impossible. What do you want? After a while, she sighed softly, I'm not your opponent. Finally willing to listen to me, it's good to do this earlier. Chin Yang shook his head, I need the fruit of the divine tree, and what you are after is immortality. We can trade. Deal. I can't achieve immortality now. Even if you use the blood of immortality to convert and refine your own blood, the soul will gradually die under the passage of time. Chin Yang pondered and said, unless I go a step further. 7-star phantom gods are only beyond time. If they are 8 stars, they may even be able to reverse their fate, and only then will they have the possibility of immortality. If you don't want to, you can only wait for 9 stars. I can give you a long life, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, and the same life as heaven and earth. I can do this now. Hearing this, Otsutsuki Kagaya's heart shook. What you said is true. If you have the conditions, you can give me the fruit of the divine tree, and at the same time, become a reserve member of the dream. I can hand over this world to you to manage. Shan Chin Yang nodded and said. It doesn't matter to him to manage the world at all. The heroic spirit world is still managed by Alaya and Gia. He is only the controller, owner, and lord of the world. He has no interest in managing the world specifically. This is the case with the world of pirates, the world of death, the world of fairy tale, and even the other worlds that are about to be conquered. In this regard, Otsutsuki Kagaya was somewhat moved. To be honest, she also felt that she was not Chin Yang's opponent for the time being, and 9 times out of 10, she was suppressed. Even if he blew himself up desperately, he would at most let the opponent's bamboo basket empty, and he wouldn't get the fruit of the divine tree. It was a question of whether he could even deal damage to the opponent. In contrast, Chin Yang's proposal was still acceptable to her. You are very tempting, but I don't know how to give you the fruit of the divine tree. I can't do such a thing. She stared at Chin Yang and said, you make such a proposal, there should be a way. Let's put it directly, I can eat you in 1 bite, probably. Chin Yang shook his head, however, eating people is not in line with my style. Secondly, I can merge with you and use the power of an illusory god, but there are risks. This risk is mainly his own. There are several results of the fusion. One possibility is that Kagaya Otsutsuki survived and gained a trace of the power of the phantom god. This will not work. Hearing this, Otsutsuki Kagaya tried to ask, you mean, you don't need this power to fuse the fruit of the divine tree? Why do I need your power? Your little power, Chin Yang asked back. I see, I understand. What you want is some kind of authority. Kagaya Otsutsuki's eyes flashed and said, although I don't know what it is, I don't even know who ate the fruit, but since you want it, I can give it to you. I can believe what you just said, there is such power. You can't deceive me, a woman, Qian Deshao. She had to believe it or not. Thinking of this, Kagayaji's reincarnation on the forehead exudes pupil power. The next moment, the space between the two of them wrinkled changed. In the dark space, 2 lights flickered. That is Chin Yang and Otsutsuki Kagaya. It turns out that the interaction at the soul level is also quite dangerous, but it is better than other methods. Chin Yang looked around, then stared at Kagaya Otsutsuki. This woman's face was still cold and glamorous. At this time, the soul of the other party exuded all kinds of fluctuations and began to blend with him. The white light on the two gradually spread, and soon filled everything. At the same time, Chin-young grasped the origin of the world through the soul of the other party, and the fusion finally unfolded. Both naked. But that's all. Chin-young is so stubborn, a mere woman can't shake him at all. I am the phantom god, the master of the world. Boom boom boom. Naruto world, the entire sky, began to reflect the illusion of the world. Chapter 0929 No one in the world knows you. According to the sky and the earth, it is like the gods look up to everything. This is the sun representing the illusory god, the sun of the illusory world. The brilliance projected by this round of the great sun dispels the infinite moon reading in one breath. Using Gecko to reflect the super illusion of the entire ninja world, infinite moon reading, it is also vulnerable in the face of Chin-yang's magical power. Gods and trees all melted like ice and snow, and the bound ninjas fell one after another and regained their freedom. I'm a dream. It really is an illusion. How can this happen? I'm the sixth Hokage. My words The ninjas who woke up one by one felt their scalps go numb. Everyone stared blankly at the sky. 24 pillars of the fantasy world, 24 pillars of the sky, as if supporting the sky and the earth, endlessly high, and at the top of it, there are palaces that look like heroes. There are even dragons roaring and devils dancing. Lines of sight were projected, as if watching a monkey show in the zoo. This is... Otsutsuki Kai opened her eyes. She also saw all this, and felt shocked inside. This is my world, the fantasy world. Chin-young chuckled and said, thanks to you 030, this ninja world has been incorporated into the fantasy world system. Otsutsuki no, Kagaya-ji, welcome to join the fantasy. Kagaya Otsutsuki didn't seem to be able to hear these words. She looked at the 24 Optimus pillars and said dumbly, what is this? This is the 24 pillars of the fantasy realm, representing the 24 full members of the fantasy world. Chin-young said lightly, besides, there are countless peripheral members. At present, the fantasy world rules 5 worlds, and at the same time is invading the other 4 worlds. There are other peripheral members like you. Less. Between words, Chin-young flicked his fingers. Immediately, a white light was projected from the first pillar of the illusion world. The next moment, long yin resounded. The sea dragon's body is thousands of meters long, and its roots are high in the sky. Seeing this scene, Otsutsuki Kagaya was completely stunned. The creature gave her the feeling that it was even more terrifying than the tailed beast, and its exuberant vitality was called a miracle. I am the sea dragon, the first pillar of the illusion world, the commander of the sea beast army. Heilong spat out his mouth, then stretched out his claws and cut his dragon scales. The next moment, a ray of blood flowed out and fell towards Chin-young. It is said to be a wisp, but that is for the system of the sea dragon, and for Kagaya Otsutsuki, it is the dragon's blood shower. Follow the promise now. This is true dragon blood, and the breath of life it contains is enough to extend your lifespan by 10,000 years. As he said that, Chin-young grabbed it from the air, and the huge dragon blood shrank, and finally turned into a small blood bead. The blood drop shot out and flew directly into Kagaya Otsutsuki's mouth. Huh! Kagaya Otsutsuki snorted, and then, he felt that his blood was swallowed by dragon blood. No, merged, his blood became long, and his vitality was long. Not only that, but bones, muscles, and even appearance began to change. This process will take a quarter of an hour. Chin-young said calmly. Then, the agreement between us has been completed. Next. As he spoke, Chin-young raised his hand a little, and suddenly a gap was torn apart in the space. Goodbye. He stepped forward, his figure melted into the space, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Bing. Wait. Kagaya Otsutsuki opened her mouth, but didn't have time to say anything. She still had a lot of questions to ask, but it was more important to integrate real dragon blood now. Mysterious guy, the lord of the illusory realm, traveling around the world and conquering the world. This organization is too scary. With a confused mind, Kagaya Otsutsuki fell into contemplation. At the same time, one of the 3 holy places in the ninja world, Miaomu Mountain. The environment here is quiet. No matter what major events happen outside, it is a quiet and peaceful state. Today, however, is different. In the sky of Miaomu Mountain, a round of sun appeared. In the sun, if someone has strong eyesight, they can see that there is a figure in the center of the sun. It's him. The big-toed immortal trembled and said, "It's him, the person I saw in my dream." Hearing this, Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha looked at each other, both feeling wrong. What happened? As soon as the voice fell, Chinyong had already appeared in front of the two of them. "Long time no see, you two." Chinyong opened his mouth with a smile. "It's you that night." Naruto Uzumaki widened his eyes. He had met Chinyong, and that night, the 9 tails in his body were released. At this moment, the 9 tails sealed in his body, its chakra shrinks rapidly and hides, as if for fear of revealing a trace of breath and being seen. "Shan, look at you scared." Chinyong shook his head. "Jue, are you so afraid of me?" "Old ancestor no, Uchiha Chin." Sasuke Uchiha gritted his teeth and glared at Chinyong. "Sasuke, it looks like you're recovering well." Chinyong glanced at him and said, "The purpose in this world has basically been achieved, and in the end it is the two of you. One of you is the reincarnation of Indra, and the other is the reincarnation of Ashura. In the depths of your soul, there is this chakra for two." Quote. What? The two of them didn't know why, but they still put on an alert attitude. "No need, a momentary thing." Chinyong shook his head and reached out to grab it. With this capture, the new 9 tails were pulled out. This time, Juya wants to completely devour the power of Jue in order to reach the 5-star level. As for the 6th star, you can only find other ways. Ah! Naruto Uzumaki let out a painful moan. "Naruto." Uchiha Sasuke's expression changed slightly. "Sasuke, I'm not your ancestor, Uchiha Chin is just a pseudonym." Chinyong said, "As I said when I first met, I'm just a passerby." Just as he was talking, a figure suddenly rushed in. "Do you come here too?" Emperor Chin, Zilai also had a dignified expression, and then gritted his teeth. "Did you do the changes outside?" "It's over, I'm about to leave, this world is useless to me." "You can do what you like, but Kagaya Otsutsuki is resurrected, and your future is also worrying." Chinyong shook his head, turned to tear the space and was about to leave. By the way, if you want to revive the person you want to revive, remember to collect ninjutsu scrolls and find Kagaya Otsutsuki, or Tsunade. Uchiha Itachi, or Uzumaki Kushina, all are possible. In the light of laughter, Chinyang's figure gradually faded, and quickly disappeared without a trace, as if he had never been here. Mocho has no confidence in the future. No one in the world does not know you. Everyone, there will be no future. Volume 6 Dragon Ball. Chapter 0930-Dragon Ball. After Tang Yi, Chinyong, and Song Chuju, I gathered together Qin, Han, Tang, Song, Yuan, Ming and Qing 233. By the way, the 6th volume of Dragon Ball, you can actually ignore it. Fantasy World. Chinyong counted the harvest. First of all, Lu Dao Madara absorbed the power of Uchiha Madara and reached a 6-star level tilde. Juya absorbed the power of Jue and reached a 5-star level. Itachi has absorbed Uchiha Sasuke's eternal kaleidoscope and the power of the 6 paths, reaching a 6-star level. Overall, Naruto World has given him a pretty good return. Leave that aside, how is the conquest of the other 4 worlds going? Sitting on the throne of the palace, Chinyong slowly closed his eyes. His thoughts descended into the illusions of the other 4 worlds. Of the 4 worlds, except One Punch Man, the remaining 3 worlds have been completed by more than 80%, and it will not be long before the origin of the world can be found and incorporated into the fantasy world system. As for One Punch Man, because of the existence of the protagonist Saitama, it's a little difficult to deal with, but that's all. After all, that guy is only supernatural in strength, and his weaknesses still exist. Leave them aside, today's fantasy world has accommodated the power of 5 worlds, which should be enough to break through that world. Qin Yang's eyes flashed, and then he got up, tore the space apart, and after taking a step, he had already entered the turbulent flow of time and space. That world is the world that was first encountered. Let's call it the 8-ball world. Now, Qin Yang feels that with his current strength, he should be able to invade it. Hope you don't let me down. XR. The new world appeared in front of him. Qin Yang hesitated. This world seemed flat, but it contained a barrier that could not be seen, and with his current strength, it was estimated that there would not be any major obstacles, but it takes some phantom power. It's just that he was a little curious about what kind of power could prevent him from exploring information. But if it is the world of Gaowu, there will naturally be the will of the world to stop him. It seems that the problem is not here. This world is not a level that he cannot touch. This is like a treasure chest with doubts in the game. It may be opened. If you enter it rashly, you may get nothing and waste your energy, but what if this is an unknown treasure? In order to elevate himself to a higher level, Qin Yang decided to try it first, but he had to find a way to win with the smallest amount of capital, and this investment was worth it. He first dispatched a part of the giant dragon army to test the water first. If it is a normal world, these dozens of giant dragons can be easily dealt with. If it can't be done, then the mysterious power contained in this world can at least make up for himself. The loss, and conquering such a world, it would be boring if you always follow your own wishes. Dragon Legion, let's go. Qin Yang stood there, just moving his mouth. A mass of black pressure kept rolling into the space-time gap, and in that world, a huge gap would inevitably open in the sky. As if the end of the day was coming, it would definitely set off a storm. But from the perspective of the indigenous people there, it is not just a small black mass, but dozens of giants like gods roaring and circling, and everywhere they go is ashes. Even if it is a punch, it would take a while to deal with so many behemoths in one go. However, what surprised Qin Yang was that in less than 5 seconds, when the dragons were just about to walk out of the crack, he completely lost his perception of the dozen or so dragons. Did those giants disappear out of thin air in an instant? Or is there something blocking your vision? There was a smile on his lips. Interesting. Phew. However, what he was more convinced of was another possibility, which also stemmed from his extreme confidence in his own strength. Those giant dragons were killed in just an instant. And since he has risen to this level, he has never suffered such losses. Although it is not the whole of the giant dragon army, the one who can solve those behemoths in an instant is by no means a generalist, and even his deputy Aizen, Ju Grandpa, may not be able to do anything. It seems that this time he really won the lottery. There must be a huge energy in this world that he didn't expect. A real strong person does not need to hesitate too much. The so-called thinking twice before acting is not a matter of tossing and turning. Don't forget that there is another sentence behind it. Again, psych. Qin Yang walked in directly. He wanted to see with his own eyes what kind of person could destroy the dragon he sent in an instant. It's been a long time since Qin Yang did such a big fight, and Qin Yang felt a little excited. The meteor streaked across the sky and flew towards the blue planet. If you look at it from another angle, it might be a very splendid brilliance, waving people's hearts. But Qin Yang is not here to do this kind of boring thing. What he wants is to conquer. To conquer this place, he is like a giant. He must hold this small planet firmly in his hands, in order to show his ultimate attitude. Challenge. So this time, he didn't plan to sneak in quietly, but to do something, a big event. Just like the Demon King in the stories he had read, he suddenly came to the world. He was feeling a little bored. At this moment, on the blue planet, a white light streaks through the day and night, and most of them are attracted by this sudden spectacle, and they all stop their work, showing expressions of surprise or vain. And local governments have issued warnings for a while that a sudden meteorite is about to land, but so what? Although the department level is more advanced than the current city, it is still helpless against this kind of natural disaster. is greater than or equal to. Qinyang showed an excited expression. As soon as this meteorite lands, it will definitely become a huge news. The excitement did not last, however, and was replaced by surprise. Seeing that the meteorite was about to reach the atmosphere, a mass of energy bodies that was no less than the speed of the meteorite suddenly collided from the ground of the planet. As the two got closer, Qinyang found that the dazzling light group seemed to be no different from the size of a meteorite, and then only heard a bang, and the meteorite instantly turned into powder. Even Qinyang's figure gradually disappeared in the light group. Could this be the real reason for the destruction of the dragon core? No, Qinyang doesn't think so. At this moment, he suddenly stopped in the air. Although he looked a little burnt, the explosion just now didn't hurt him in the slightest. He even had enough time to escape, but he didn't. Not this one. He silently said. It turned out that he suspected that the energy ball just now was the real culprit that destroyed the giant dragon army, but after experiencing it himself, he found that it was not, that little power was not enough to kill so many giant dragons. But at least this seemingly ordinary world still has some resistance, which is much more interesting than the places it has conquered before, isn't it? The corner of his mouth raised a smile again. Curiosity outweighed ambition. After this time, he didn't intend to invade the real face. Now he really wants to see what kind of person released the energy just now, or some class level. In an instant, in the bustling metropolis, a person suddenly appeared in the alley that the building saw. With his hands in his pockets, he was wearing a gray coat and sunglasses on his face. It was Qinyang. Qinyang's eyes hidden behind his sunglasses began to look around. The crowd on the street was dressed in fashionable and gorgeous clothes, which were not fundamentally different from his own birthplace. So were those buildings, at best a future version of his birthplace. In Qinyang's eyes, all these seem to be nothing but gaudy, and if you think about it, how can the residents of this place have such a vision? Qinyang secretly laughed in his heart, feeling that the energy just now should be emitted by their division level. But this idea was overturned by him in an instant. Suddenly, Qinyang was attracted by the props used by a nearby person. I saw the man took out a capsule from his body, pressed the switch on the top of the capsule, and threw it on the open space. With a puff, it turned into a cloud of smoke, and when the smoke dissipated, a small home car was just out of thin air. Appeared. Qinyang's mind suddenly flashed when he saw this scene. Because this scene is too familiar to him, this is not a universal capsule. So it turns out that this is here. Qinyang was both excited and emotional in his heart. It really took no time to find a place to step through the iron shoes. After thinking about it for so long, I even felt that the time had not come, and I didn't expect it to appear so suddenly. No wonder the dragons can't take this place. It turns out that this is the familiar Dragon Ball world. Chapter 0931_character is everything. And even if the strength of Dragon Ball world is here, it is not a matter of minutes, but this problem is really unpredictable. The most urgent task is to find the source of the energy group that launched it, and to determine the timeline here. The mysterious power of this world may be related to the special Saiyan blood. He thought so, suddenly disappeared into the crowd, and suddenly appeared in another place a few kilometers away. This is also a helpless thing. The new map is not like the ninja world with only a few ninja villages. The ghost knows where the protagonists live here. So Qinyang can only explore here bit by bit, and stop and take a look every time he moves to a place. In fact, it is not impossible to use the method of telepathy. It is easy to find the person you want to meet, but just like you are used to eating delicacies from the mountains and seas, it is also a good taste to occasionally switch to rough tea and light rice. He is now more inclined to enjoy the method of acquiring power, rather than as soon as possible as in the early days. On a small island thousands of kilometers away from Qinyang, a bald and thin old man wearing a black lens was reading a magazine leisurely on a beach chair, and from time to time he let out a wretched laugh. But when he got serious, he couldn't really see that he was an old man, just like a few minutes ago, when he was woken up by an alarm sound in his nap, looked up and saw a meteorite with a long tail streaking across the sky, and then helplessly he sighed, and for some reason, after waiting for a while, he suddenly complained, "Really, does this kind of thing have to be done by an old man like me?" Then, when his eyes changed, the originally atrophied muscles suddenly swelled, instantly turning into a muscular man, and a dazzling light emanated from his palms and flew towards the meteorite in the air. Soon, a dazzling explosion occurred in the sky, which looked like a giant fireworks, and at this time the muscles of the old man disappeared again, and the whole person looked lazy. Occasionally, it's good for the old man to exercise his muscles and bones. Then he stretched out, "Oh, another beautiful day. Phew." However, his eyes suddenly stayed on the horizon, and he didn't know if he was confused or what, and said to himself, "It seems that he is a troublesome guy again. Forget it, the old man should enjoy life." Then he picked up the magazine again and smiled smugly. But as everyone knows, the so-called troublesome guy in his mouth is 100 times or even 1,000 times more troublesome than he imagined. No, maybe it is not completely troublesome. Trouble, in the old man's mouth was that Qin Yang finally had his first harvest after coming to Dragon Ball World. Above the head of the clear sky, from behind a cloud, a tiny light suddenly appeared and streaked across the sky. Maybe it was a meteorite, but it was much smaller than the one made by Qin Yang. The two must be like ants. With the elephant. But it was this little thing that aroused Qin Yang's interest, and with Qin Yang's cultivation, it seemed clear to him that it was not a meteorite, but a spaceship of a star. Familiar memories flashed in his mind. If he guessed correctly, the time is now the 5th year after Sun Wukong and Piccolo fought, and many wonderful things happened in that year. Qin Yang doesn't seem to mention it at all. What he wants is mysterious energy, and if Qin Yang doesn't interfere too much, then the plot trend will definitely not deviate too much, but in this case, Qin Yang feels that even if he waits for the last paragraph, time waits for Sun Wukong to realize the true meaning of Super Saiyan, and it is probably not enough for him to see it. If he is still a 4-star level, he may have a lot of experience. But with a sinister smile on Qin Yang's mouth, the doubts he had just now vanished from his mind. Just do it. It seems that people's character is the master. If he wants to play the Devil's Descent, he can't play it, he is still an old man. Be a conspirator. Qin Yang completely closed his breath, waiting for his prey to take the bait. The spot of light in the sky was getting bigger and bigger, and it swiped across the mountains and fell into a farmland. A nearby farmer was frightened and hurried to his truck to see what happened. And the farmer, who looks honest and responsible even though he has a beard, never imagined that he would become a prey in the eyes of others. The farmer drove the car anxiously, thinking that the light just now was some kind of miracle, but he never imagined that the real miracle was beside him, and a black air sneaked into his body quietly. It was the ghost. Qin Yang stole it. The first expert in intelligence, and this time the ghost did not completely occupy this person's mind, but attached to him, and all this was Qin Yang's instructions. As for Qin Yang, who hid his aura for a long time, ambushing around the alien spaceship, waiting for a good show to be staged. It is estimated that based on the existing combat power in this world, no one has been able to discover him. Sun Wukong, who will reach the peak in the future, etc. People can't tell. The car quickly drove to the vicinity of the crater, and the farmer cautiously approached with a shotgun. What he didn't expect was that in the center of the crater, a white baseball-like thing suddenly made a sound, like some kind of instrument, and with a click, a person came out. This man was dressed in a strange, warrior-like armor, with long black hair like needles draped behind him. His muscles were tempered, and his eyes were even more arrogant, and what was even more strange was that he actually had a long, furry tail wrapped around his abdomen like a belt. But what didn't match his savage aura was that he actually had a high-tech 5.0 detector on his left eye. The honest farmer was startled, and at this moment, the strange man with a fierce face jumped up and muttered, "How come there are still people alive on this planet, that kid Kakarot?" The farmer pointed his gun at him in horror and shouted, "Who are you?" The scanner on the stranger's eye is activated and the data is displayed immediately. Later, the classic line was said, "The scum with less than 5 combat power." In his opinion, even if the opponent is holding a gun, he is nothing but a piece of shit. But ironically, in Qin Yang's opinion, the opponent is not as good as a scum with less than 5 combat power, and he can easily crush it with just one breath without moving his finger. Thinking of this, Qin Yang almost laughed, but for the next good show, he had to endure it first, because a good show was about to be staged. Filu reminds you, there are 3 things to read: collection, recommendation and sharing. Du Junhu. Chapter 0932-Good Show 1. He was shocked at the moment, but the strange man stretched out his hand and grabbed the bullet, and then shot back. The power of this shot was even greater than that of the shotgun, and the farmer fell directly to the ground. When he finished this hand, he did not forget to mutter wildly, "What a weak nation." Suddenly, the detector in front of the stranger rang. The detector showed the exact position, and a powerful creature was found, more than 4,000 kilometers away. The stranger showed a hint of excitement and flew into the air with a swish. He thought it was the so-called Kakarot. Qin Yang hid in the dark, thinking, he is really an Aborigines. Just wait, it will definitely surprise you later. And 4,000 kilometers away, another strong man in this world is standing on the edge of a cliff, wearing a white cloak and green skin all over his body. His ears are pricked up like a fairy, just like a big devil. It was Piccolo, also known as the Piccolo Demon King. But at this time, Piccolo was not this person's opponent, and the growth attribute was quite good, but when it was enough to kill such an opponent in seconds in the later stage, it was basically the second item of the new boss, which was a pity to think about. At this time, Piccolo had also somewhat activated the ability to perceive chi in the early stage, and he had already noticed it before the menacing stranger came to him. Ah, a powerful force, is it Sun Wukong? But when he found out who was coming, he was taken aback. It was a strange face he had never seen before. But after all, he is a demon king, so he still has some arrogance. Piccolo immediately asked, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" It is estimated that if the two are fighting with all their strength at this time, Piccolo is a little weaker than the opponent, which means that if he adds some means, he may be able to beat his opponent. And the other party looked at Piccolo and said, "You're not the person I'm looking for." "Then what are you doing?" "Looking for death." The stranger pressed the switch of the detector and said, "It's quite arrogant, and the combat effectiveness is good, but it's not my opponent." Hearing this, Piccolo was angry. After all, no one had ever dared to speak like this in front of him. But the other party is also, he doesn't know that Piccolo's true combat power is not like this. If he knew, he might not say such an easy thing. Seeing the other party's contemptuous attitude, Piccolo was thoroughly enraged and said, "Do you know who you are talking to?" Maybe he would avoid fighting if it was someone else, but now Piccolo can't do it. He is a demon king. How can the demon king be trampled on by others? But at the same time, he also knows that this wild-looking person is not simple, so the best way is to be real, and suddenly he makes a move, and a single palm is aimed at the target in front of him, and a yellow energy immediately rushes over. But after the smoke cleared, Piccolo was really frightened. The other party didn't even hide. If it was someone else, it would have disappeared. And it didn't stop there. After the other party took it forcibly, he didn't forget to sneer, "That's all. It's too bad, but it just raised a bit of ash." After coughing twice, the other party took a pose and said, "It's my turn, let you see it." But at this time, the detector in front of him suddenly remembered that the stranger rose into the air, regardless of Piccolo's reaction, and muttered, "It's another powerful force," and he was full of praise. And such a powerful energy, it must be Kakarot. Then, he performed the air dance technique and disappeared, leaving only Piccolo in a cold sweat. How is it possible? I'm so shivering that I can't stand. However, Qin Yang saw everything that happened just now. He quietly followed strangers all the way here. Looking at Bic, who was deeply remorseful, Qin Yang suddenly came up with an idea. In fact, he did not. The plan was like this, but the plan did not change quickly. At this time, he appeared behind Piccolo out of thin air, and Piccolo was still kneeling there, unaware that another strong man who far surpassed him appeared behind him. "Why didn't you expect yourself to be so weak?" Chin Yang said suddenly. 7. Piccolo jumped up suddenly, turned around to look at Chin Yang, and at the same time was even more astonished. He actually encountered difficult people in a day. What happened today? In his opinion, Chin Yang is stronger than the strangers before. After all, Vic, who was standing behind him, didn't even notice it. But what he didn't expect was that Chin Yang was 1,000 times stronger than he imagined, but Chin Yang would not show him this, and his sudden thought was a pity for the character Vic. "When did you show up behind me?" Piccolo insisted. "Is this important?" Chin Yang replied coldly. "Are you with that guy just now?" Piccolo made the move at any time. "No. Why should I trust you? Do I have to lie to you?" While saying these words, Chin Yang suddenly released a deterrent with his eyes, but his own aura was not exposed at all. This was also for the sake of his original plan. But it was this deterrence that made people as strong as Piccolo instantly speechless. This is not any move, nor does it require any strength, or it can be understood that the upgraded version of the Unking Haki, just a look is enough to make people feel the pressure of a mountain, and Piccolo is naturally a bit powerful. At this time, he has completely convinced, at least this person is not the same as the one just now, because the person just now obviously has some purpose, and this person is just passing by. Chin Yang narrowed his eyes and said, "How about it, believe it?" As if liberated, Piccolo breathed heavily, and said, "But I still want to try. Are you pretending it is or is it true? If it is true, I really want to rebuild the perspective of looking at the world." Chin Yang said coldly, "Oh, is the Mogongwang Cannon? That's what it's called." Shanbik became even more shocked. What the hell was the other party even knew about this kind of thing? If he knew that this was a new trick he worked so hard to create in the 5 years since he took a selfie in the hands of Sun Wukong, this kind of thing is impossible. Someone will know. No way. You've been by my side. Who the hell are you? Now according to his thinking, he can only assume that there is another hidden powerhouse monitoring him all the time, and there is no other way. Chin Yang shook his head, and didn't bother to explain, and said, "Even if that's the case, don't you want to try?" "Don't worry, I won't dodge." Piccolo took off the cape from his body, the veins on his head burst out, and said, "This is what you said." Chapter 0933_Good Show 2. Again, the question of face can be manipulated by others. On the other side, a stranger from outside was rushing towards the newly discovered powerhouse. He only had one person in his mind, his younger brother Kakarot, and Raditz, the elder brother, was the first person. A stranger who came to Earth and uttered the famous saying of the ages. He was not thinking of brotherhood, but planned to join forces with his long-awaited younger brother to conquer the planet. The scenery in front of him flowed rapidly, but the more he went forward, the more familiar he felt. It was not until he saw the spherical spaceship that he was sure that his feeling was not wrong. Could it be that Kakarot is near where he landed? But why didn't the detector detect it before? After readjusting the detector, Raditz slowly walked towards that direction, but soon he found that something was wrong. This is a farmyard. Could it be that his younger brother is a farmer on this planet 737? Thinking of this made him even more angry. How could a proud warrior race become a farmer on such an inferior planet? He decided to let him see when he saw him, kill everyone around him, in order to stimulate the potential in his body. But what he didn't expect was that when he smashed the wall of the house with one foot, the person who appeared in front of him was the simple and honest farmer who had been killed by him before. How could this be? He showed a surprised expression, but the direction pointed out on the detector is clearly here. It's this guy. Could it be that the Zanwu scum he encountered before was the source of this powerful force? He couldn't help but wonder, either the detector was malfunctioning, it must be so, otherwise, how could this human being have such a strong combat power, although it is not comparable to himself? With his vision, he would never have imagined that someone was secretly making a fool of himself. This honest-looking farmer is essentially the same person, but in terms of strength, it is estimated that Lien Raditz himself could not have imagined that this should have been taken by him. Those who were easily killed already had more power than themselves, and what the probe showed was nothing more than the iceberg horn. And all of this is of course the ghost of the ghost attached to the farmer. He followed Qin Shangyang's instructions and possessed this person's body, and he had to protect this person. This order is permanently in effect until he sends another mission. Although the ghost has been by Qin Yang's side for a long time, sometimes he really can't figure out the mind of this master. It's better to kill such a low-level creature casually. Why does it take so much trouble? In fact, this is also a test for the ghost. It is like walking on thin ice. If you are a little careless, you will fall into the water, and the ghost will have to suppress himself and not emit too much energy. That way, the farmer's mortal body can't bear it, and the other end can't do anything to Raditz, because as long as the ghost takes his life, it's almost a matter of minutes. Just like before, in order to make his situation less troublesome, the phantom pretended to shoot the farmer. In fact, the moment the bullet was about to touch the farmer's body, the phantom controlled the bullet, and then shot the farmer. Get dizzy. And Raditz was like a toy monkey, rushing to the next location with great interest. Of course, Mo Ying's previous actions were all about hiding his aura and doing things in secret, but he is not Qin Yang after all. You can relax a little, so it was recorded by the combat power detector. Now this guy who made him feel irritable is back. Mo Ying really wants to kill him directly. After all, he has followed Qin Yang in so many worlds. Which time has he been treated like this? But this is nothing more than thinking. And which of the ghost shadows is just based on his own theory that the one with the highest combat power is his younger brother Kakarot? Could this foolish peasant be his brother? Raditz immediately denied it. It was absolutely impossible, and he yelled in anger, "This damn detector!" The surrounding momentum set off energy waves and raised the surrounding area to the ground in a blink of an eye. After all, the farmer still has his own consciousness. He was so frightened that he ran away, and when he saw a smart wind pressure coming, he thought he was about to die, but what he didn't expect was that when he opened his eyes again, he still stayed in place, but the houses disappeared. At that time, he couldn't believe his eyes. In the face of such a force that he could almost call it a disaster, he was unscathed. This has to admit is a miracle. And Raditz was equally astonished. At this time, his eyes widened. Could it be that this idiot in front of him really has powerful strength? If I read it right just now, the opponent's combat power rose to a certain high value in an instant. The farmer smiled honestly, but his fear was still not eliminated. He didn't even know what to do, so he just squeezed out a sentence. Then, "I'll go first." Then turn around to run away. Raditz came back to his senses and shouted again, "You come back to me." He couldn't wait to jump in front of the farmer and looked at him up and down. This harmless look, there was no way to see such a combat power, and the data displayed by the detector was still pitifully low, only 1.5. Raditz decided to study it carefully. Could it be that this person has some unknown potential? It's the same for everyone on this planet, so it's no wonder Kakarot couldn't take this place. He walked back and forth beside the farmer, and the honest and responsible farmer was very upset by such a trick. He didn't know who the other party was or what his purpose was. He only remembered the amazing destructive power, and he was compared with him. Just like bugs. But there are reasons for all actions, let alone actions that seem strange. The only thing the farmer can think of now is that the other party is observing him. It's not that he wants to hurt himself, and he doesn't know what's wrong, or the desire to survive, the farmer said tremblingly. Then, can I? Raditz frowned immediately, a murderous aura that almost made the farmer wet his pants. But what he didn't expect was that the alien actually said, "Okay, let's go." The farmer finally breathed a sigh of relief, but after he took 3 or 4 steps, Raditz raised his right hand behind him, and a wave of energy quietly gathered. Chapter 0934 Abused by Farmers. The scene of Raditz's astonishment was exaggerated, and even the snot came out. I saw that the farmer just turned his head and looked at him. After all, He was also frightened by such a big movement just now, so he hurriedly asked, "What's wrong?" The two men stared at each other, and fell into a very awkward silence for a while. Raditz was the first to break the silence. "No, impossible. Of course it is impossible to change it to normal, but this is not normal, but the shadow is controlled in the dark." Looking at the two natives, the shadow is hiding in the dark with a helpless look, and the only thing I think about is how to rest early. Tilda's service is simply boring to death. From Raditz's point of view, it is impossible to see that this farmer is not ordinary. Either he is deliberately playing tricks on himself or there are other reasons that he does not know, but in his view it is more like the former. However, apart from the few big men above his head, he has never been so humiliated. Raditz got a little serious and said, "Okay, since you want to play Lao Su, I will play with you to the end." He jumped up, and the person who saw him was already more than 10 meters in the sky, and his hands were quickly waving forward, and every time a small energy sheet was emitted from the palm of his hand, pointing directly at the farmer. With such a speed, it is comparable to a powerful cannon. No, it is much more powerful than a man-made cannon. This is the third time that the farmer has seen an extraordinary scene today, and it is getting worse every time. Seeing the sudden energy ball, it is still a group, and his mind is blank. It is estimated that this time it is really the time has come, right? Miracles won't come twice. Yes, a miracle will not visit twice in a row, but a ghost is not a miracle, but a miraculous life comparable to a miracle. Facing such an attack, the ghost cannot sit idly by, and in his opinion, the energy ball of this speed is no more than that. Just like in slow motion, all he thought about was how to stop him, because once he tried too hard, he would definitely be scolded by Qin Yang, alas, who made Lao Su good at lurking. The ghost sighed in his heart. A black gas followed around the farmer. Bing! And Raditz in the sky noticed this, to be precise, the detector on his head, and the farmer's combat power soared, 710. Raditz was shocked. How could it be? Could it be that it was really hidden, and it rose to 710 in an instant? You must know that Raditz's own combat power is only about 1200. Someone can reach 700 in an instant. Greatly threatened. The Bix he encountered before were only about 400, but this was only the data in the early stage. Although the Bix in the later period were also made of soy sauce, their combat power was recorded in 10,000 units. But when the smoke cleared, the farmer stood there in a daze, as if in a dream. He looked around in disbelief, looked at himself again, and muttered, "Difficult, don't tell me." Raditz clenched his fists tightly, and his bones rubbed together to make a crisp sound. Damn. As a Saiyan, it should be a proud fighting nation. It can be said that fighting is like a commonplace, and how can a proud warrior be humiliated so easily? Raditz is here for real this time. He uses all his strength, a blow with all his strength, a qigong wave. In the blink of an eye, a large energy ball, which was different from the small energy ball that Raditz seemed to have before, spurted out of his palms with a long tail, as if it were popular, and it seemed to have life and headed straight to the farmer. And the farmer seemed to have some confidence in the face of all this. After all, it had been 3 times. This time he quietly cheered up and faced this incredible energy for him. Secretly, the ghost sighed again, opened the defense, and easily dissolved the qigong wave, but who knew that after the explosion, Raditz's face suddenly appeared in front of him, but he didn't know the existence of the ghost. Just according to the tactics, just now it's just a feint attack, the real killer move is himself. And what he is best at is seeing the power hit his hands and giving the opponent a heavy blow. In fact, I'm not afraid of jokes, let alone Qinyang Maing and others, even among the Chanya people he calls. Raditz is just a second-rate scum, and even a cultivator who is used as food is not as good as such a role. There is only so much ability to do violence to an unarmed farmer. Bing. And this is what Qin Yang does not cut. As a strong man, even if he conquers the quartet, it would be boring to slaughter the weak. If Qin Yang put his own vision at such a low level from the beginning, he will be today. There is no way to rise to this level, so this is not related to ruthlessness at all. And today, the ghost is about to let this idiot who thinks he is so strong learn a lesson. Let him see what it means to drown you with a spit. Seeing Raditz's iron fist with energy attached to it, the momentum is really like a beast, and although the farmer had a little confidence before, he escaped the Qigong wave and opened his eyes again. This fierce alien came to him like this. In front of him, he was still very pale for a while, which is also very common sense. Any weak person will be afraid when they see such a momentum. But the phantom is not a weak one. He secretly provided a layer of protection for the farmer, and Raditz's iron fist that looks like a tiger is not a piece of cake in his opinion. He thought it was comparable to Garp's. The fist is not known by how much. The farmer closed his eyes, and then only heard a clicking sound. When he opened his eyes again, or he never thought he would be able to open them again, he only saw the alien covering his hand and was in pain on the ground. Howling. The farmer touched his forehead, as if something had just stuck to his forehead, but he fell into inexplicable thought. Is my forehead so hard? But the facts in front of him proved that his forehead was so hard. The farmer may have been affected by various miracles today. He suddenly picked up a stone from the ground and smashed it on his forehead. Ouch, it hurts. When the shadowy ghost saw this scene, he felt extremely unhappy and cursed inwardly, 2 idiots. As for Raditz on the ground, the power of his own fist still seems to be ineffective. It seems that it is only red and swollen. Otherwise, under the reflection of the reaction force, the fist should have been broken long ago. And he was still not reconciled at this time, and when he turned his eyes, there was a plan. As for the ghost, after secretly seeing Raditz's reaction, I couldn't figure it out. What does this idiot want to do? Chapter 0935 Even with such strength, he dares to be called a demon king. There were also flaws, though, but it shouldn't happen, because once Piccolo hits the wrong way, the protective layer is bound to be broken down, and Qin Yang's actions will be exposed. It won't cause much impact, but Qin Yang is now a character who exists like a god, and this kind of flaw is detrimental to face. But isn't this a joke? After all, he is a person known as the Great Demon King of Piccolo. How could his nirvana be distorted? But if you think from Qin Yang's perspective, you will find that this is not a joke or looking down on anyone, but that Qin Yang is too strong for the people in this world, or compares them with ants. Inappropriate. And the level of Piccolo in front of him is not enough for him to see at all. If he thinks about it, he is still thinking about it. If he could meet a guy like Piccolo at the beginning, maybe he would be used as his right-hand man. After all, a generation of big devils is still to give some face. At this time, a shock wave penetrating the helical halo shot out from Piccolo's fingertips. In other words, the shock wave that gathered most of Piccolo's energy was originally rotating at a high speed. His own attack power tripled in an instant. It has completely surpassed the arrogant Raditz before. I still remember that in the original book, Sun Wukong was holding Raditz's tail to weaken his ability, and then let Piccolo make this move. At that time, Raditz was horrified, but he didn't hit the first time. Dodging in time just hurt the shoulder, and added suspense to the story, and at the same time led to more powerful guys coming. Thinking of this, Qin Yang really wanted to dodge this trick with a bad taste, but since he had said before that he would not dodge, he would never dodge. This is the real powerhouse. You must know your own strength and the opponent well, so that you can say such things. To be able to do this, I am afraid that there will be no second person in this world besides Qin Yang, but the future Sun Wukong may also reach this level, which is what Qin Yang hopes to see. The magic bullet cannon came towards him like this, and this very famous secret in history hit him so painlessly, but Qin Yang didn't feel how great he was, because sometimes something its value does not lie in its physical values on the surface, but in its inner value. In Qin Yang's heart, he still likes this Dragon Ball world very much. After all, many memories of his childhood are in it, so this time have a good time here. Bing! The smoke and dust dissipated, Qin Yang opened his eyes, and he felt that Qin Yang was savoring every ounce of the magic bullet hit him, as if he was tasting a glass of aged wine, mellow and smooth, and then sipped it. Unconsciously, Qin actually shed tears. It was so wonderful, which strengthened his determination to make Piccolo worthy of the word Demon King. As for Piccolo himself, he was completely dumbfounded, and his trump card was so resolved that he was not even a defensive stance. This is far from a humiliation. After all, Piccolo is not a pig-brained character like Raditz. Even the human being in front of him is probably far beyond his reach at present, and he will first listen to him to show his intentions. If the other party really wants to do something to him, I am afraid that there is no way to escape. Piccolo took a deep breath. His face seemed much calmer. I already believed it, no need to try again. At the same time, he didn't understand, why did this person cry? Qin stood up, his complexion returned to normal again, and he shook the ashes on his body and said, "If I see it, I would dare to call you a demon king at this level. But I'm not targeting you in particular, on the contrary, I'm optimistic about you. Maybe you don't know yet, you still have a lot of room for growth. How is it? Would you like me to train you?" Piccolo was stunned for a while. He must have been very angry when he heard such words, but he did not burst out, but chose to stay calm and said, "Do I have any other options?" "No." Piccolo chuckled and said, "Okay, I'll accept it." Qin also smiled and said, as expected of Bic, he really knows what to do, and he has patience. "But you don't need to call me master, just call me Qin." "But you don't have any purpose, do you? Do you want to rule here too?" At this time, Piccolo still opened his mouth to rule the world and shut his mouth to rule the earth. After all, he was the second generation of demons and inherited the will of his father. But he was half right. Qin wanted to conquer this place, but he mainly did it for the mysterious energy. Besides, after a while, the Dragon Ball world will be completely opened, and the place to be conquered is not only the earth. Now, Namek, Bida, and Zhuangji, etc., and now the most important thing is to confirm Qin idea, that is, the relationship between mysterious energy and Saiyans. It's just that the process is not in a hurry. Qin looked at Bic and said, "No, of course I have my own purpose, but it may be trivial in your opinion, but I will not interfere in any of your affairs. In other words, you do it has nothing to do with me, I just want you to be worthy of the word Demon King." Piccolo only snorted and said nothing else. Qin smiled, stretched out his hand and grabbed Piccolo's head in an instant, saying, "Then let me help you open the gate in your body first." Piccolo showed a shocked look. A burst of energy forcefully penetrated into his body, and he screamed in pain. On an island thousands of kilometers away, an aircraft landed on the island, and a short-haired girl in a long shirt walked into the house. It is worth mentioning that her hair is light blue. There were 5.4 people in the room, 2 bald heads, 1 young and 1 old. These 2 were very happy to visit with the girl, and these 3 were the key figures in the Dragon Ball world, Turtle Immortal, Keelan, and Bulma. In addition, in the sky, under a cloud, a golden light suddenly streaked across the horizon. If you look closely, it is a golden cloud, and there are 2 people sitting on the cloud, which looks like a father and son. They are flying towards the house of the pirate Upper Turtle Fairy. "See, that's Teacher Wu Tian's house." The man who looked like a father said so. In fact, he looks very young, but only about 20 years old, and the original protagonist in this world just appeared like this, but I don't know what will happen in the future after the history changes. Or everything is under Qin control. Chapter 0936_Mice in the Lab. On the ghost side, Raditz fell into madness. His narrow-mindedness dominated him, and he could not tell the reality for a long time. He thought that he, a Saiyan, was not an existence that crushed everything. And the ghost just possessed an ordinary person and already made him suffer. In the face of Raditz's crazy offensive, the ghost has already invaded his brain with breath, causing him to deviate a little when he determines the target, and it is this offset that Raditz thinks that this farmer with such a fast speed, he was unable to hit him with all his strength, and the opponent's combat power only stayed at a tiny value of 1. But when fury had cooled down early, Raditz gasped for breath. The surrounding mountains, rivers and trees had been completely destroyed by his power, except for the simple and honest farmer in front of him. "Who the hell are you?" Raditz finally recognized the facts and asked. Me. But the farmer didn't know the truth. "I'm just a farmer." Farmer. This word is an insult to Raditz. Thinking that two other guys from light years away will know this, Raditz finds a crack in the ground and burrows into it. At the beginning, he vowed to see his younger brother, but now he is being played by a peasant. He is really embarrassed. But this is exactly what Qin Yang expected. He just wanted to show another guy. This planet is not as boring as they thought, but even if they are more powerful, in the original book, they are not planted in Sun Wukong, waiting for someone's hand. On the other side, a charming smile appeared on Qin Yang's face. He opened his hand, and Piccolo fell to the ground in a daze like mud. Of course, what he thought was more than that simple. In his opinion, although the division of power in the Dragon Ball world is not very complicated, the world is different from layer to layer. Earth, God, Hades, Realm King God, and after this, there is a higher level, just like a template of the multiverse. Among them, the story of the Saiyans runs through, like a key, and as long as you hold the key firmly, you will hold the core of the world in your hands. So what is an Earth? Bing. Maybe even that guy who invaded himself felt it, right, King Jaeon? Qin Yang felt a little excited when he thought of this, but in the current situation, King Quan would not necessarily interfere here, and in his narrow sense, he would not think that Qin Yang was a big threat. And everything has to be done step by step. Qin Yang is not in a hurry to win this place in a short time, but watching the development of things, step by step, it becomes more dramatic. It's almost about time. Qin Yang glanced at Piccolo on the ground and disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already beside Raditz, and Qin Yang just pointed with his finger. Raditz didn't move, the whole person seemed to be still like a sculpture, and Qin Yang's the finger also cut off the signal of the detector on Raditz's head, making the person on the other end think that there was some interference. After all, it is still a lot early for him to officially appear. Seeing Qin Yang, Mo Ying withdrew from the farmer and said, "Is my mission finally over?" The farmer found that a burst of black smoke suddenly appeared on his body, and the man who suddenly appeared in front of him had reached a certain point in his body, and he passed out without any external force, looking at them back and forth. Qin Yang said coldly, "I changed my mind again, you can go back first, Ma Ying." The ghost finally seemed to be liberated, turning into a fog and disappearing in place. Now that the plan has been adjusted, Qin Yang decided to confirm his first idea first. With a stroke of his right hand in the air, a world of his own appeared. With a finger out of thin air, Raditz's body floated up and followed Qin Yang's movements into the space, and the space was closed, and Qin Yang's people also disappeared in an instant. Before looking at Qin Yang's future, Raditz ended up being entangled by Sun Wukong, and gave a blow to the angry Gohan, and was finally shot through the chest by Piccolo's magic bullet and died. The Saiyan, who compared Bita to trash, received the lunch just like that. From a certain point of view, it can be said that it has been thrown into the face of the Saiyans. Saiyans are Saiyans after all. Although the attributes are there, some people just don't know how to use them, and even spend their lives mediocre, let alone Saiyans. And what Qin Yang wants to do is to stimulate his potential in a short period of time, in order to confirm his conjecture. The source of Super Saiyan energy is mysterious energy, or he can understand the mysterious energy in this universe. It's not that there is no real substance such as devil fruit or ninjutsu scrolls, but some keys are needed to open it, and if this is the case, it can explain why the Saiyans have such a strong power once they have entered the second form. Strength. Therefore, in Qin Yang's eyes, Raditz is just a guinea pig, and now this guinea pig is obediently staying in the space created by Qin Yang. Since he has risen to 7 stars, he has possessed many such abilities, which can be described as a qualitative leap, but going one step further requires more mysterious energy. But things like rising stars can't be rushed. The more you go on, the more it will become. Qin Yang is well aware of this. Anyway, for the current self, there is nothing worth worrying about. It's all about how to make yourself experience a feeling that you've never experienced before. In this world, the first thing Qin Yang did was to test the detector on Lottie's head. This was a preparation before the experiment. After the energy in his body was stimulated, the mechanical instrument would be destroyed. This would be equivalent to the fishing line was broken, and after the inspection, Qin Yang could make an exact replica at any time, including the data inside. After completing the only preparation, Qin Yang put his hand on Raditz's forehead, just like the way to stimulate Piccolo's potential. Like electricity, a burst of energy from Qin Yang's palm suddenly got into Raditz's body. Now he is immobilized by Qin Yang's static technique. His eyes are open but he has no consciousness, but this is detrimental to the human body in the state of the operation. But for the guinea pig, there is no need to consider these. It is estimated that if you let go, you will have to listen to a bunch of nonsense from him. Soon after, when Qin Yang released his hand confidently, he said, "It's time to see the results of the experiment." Chapter 0937_experiment starts. Ask this. And GT. Qin Yang replied coldly. "Don't worry, it's not the underworld yet, but if you want to go back, you have to kill me." Qin Yang had already thought about it, because he didn't want to talk too much nonsense with this guy. According to Raditz's thinking, it is estimated that he is dreaming. He was teased by a peasant before, and suddenly came to this world, but even if someone talks to him in the dream, it is absolutely not allowed. Said that in reality, he lives by flattering others, and in turn, once he finds an opportunity to crush others, this kind of guy will definitely not let it go. Raditz clenched his fists, showing a fierce look, and said, "Oh, I didn't think there would be people who are so eager to die, so I'll let you die happily." He evenly attached the energy to himself, and came to Qin Yang's side, but when he hit the next punch, he should have hit the target. Tia's fist actually passed through it. Raditz was stunned. Was he being tricked again, or was this the real face of the farmer? His idea was only half right. Then Qin Yang reminded him, "Use a little more strength, this effort won't hurt me." In fact, even if Raditz really became a Super Saiyan, it wouldn't hurt the current Qin Yang. But as for Raditz, does he know that his current potential has been developed, even to a greater extent than Piccolo? At this point, Qin Yang is not biased, nor is Bix aptitude weaker than Raditz, but that developing a strength that does not suit him in a short period of time will also have side effects on the body. Moreover, even after development, everyone can the amount used is also different. It's like you have a bucket of water, but you only realize that you have to drink it with a spoon, and you have no idea that you can actually move the bucket. And consciousness cannot be reversed in a short period of time, because once something is deeply ingrained, it will not be changed so easily. But there is a way to do it, that is, subconsciousness. This kind of thing is the opposite of attention. Attention is the most intuitive method. It condenses all the energy that the person can mobilize at the moment, but at the same time can make oneself. How much energy is exerted also depends on the self-awareness mentioned earlier, and the subconscious is that one does not take the initiative to mobilize one's own ability, and is separated from the subjectivity. This kind of subconscious power is often one's true strength. So Qin Yang tried his best to use words to irritate Raditz, and the power that the opponent used subconsciously was all he had now. After listening to Qin Yang's instigation, Raditz's anger had made him dizzy. After a sharp turn in the air, he clasped his fists together and was about to smash Qin Yang on the head. Qin Yang sees everything, and what he cares most about is the energy that Raditz burst out, whether it is as high as he expected, and this seemingly subtle point determines the success of the subsequent experiments. If it achieves what Qin Yang expected, the probability of success will reach 90%. Everything seemed like slow motion in Qin Yang's eyes. He stared at Raditz's body, carefully discerning the energy seeping out from every pore on his skin, and even though it was slow motion, Raditz's arms still wouldn't. He stopped, and just when Raditz was about to touch Qin Yang, a smile appeared on the corner of Qin Yang's mouth. With a bang, Raditz flew out, and Qin Yang just flicked his finger. Raditz wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and scolded, "You bastard." As for Qin Yang, As soon as he raised one hand, Raditz's people began to be out of his own control. He couldn't even perform the air dance, so he could only grit his teeth and bark like a dog. What do you want to do? Qinyang said coldly. What are you doing? Help you. His raised hand suddenly clenched into a fist, and the other end of Raditz also suddenly radiated a golden light. Raditz held his head and struggled in the air, shouting in pain, and as the breath on his body became more and more intense, Raditz's hair stood up like a jet of flame, and the color began to change. The change, from the original black to golden, and even the original black pupils also turned into water blue. What is this? Raditz felt a giant power surge out from his body. It was hot, and the source continued, and this power stimulated his whole body, making him unable to move, but it contained incomparably huge energy. Finally, this power reached a certain point. Raditz shouted, all the burdens disappeared. Like rebirth, a warrior like a god was born. Raditz looked at himself in surprise, and felt that everything was incredible, an unprecedented excitement, as if he was unique in this world. You made me this way. Looks good. How is it? Do you like it? Qinyang's answer made him feel excited, because his experiment has successfully taken the first step. Raditz smiled, his eyes suddenly became very bright, and said, then, if that's the case, thank you. I will remember your kindness. Suddenly, he shot, faster and more powerful than before. It seems that this change in power has also intensified his ambitions, but of course Qinyang expected him to do this, and this also happened to respond to his own embrace. Beyond Raditz's imagination, Qinyang disappeared out of thin air. When Raditz appeared again, Qinyang had stepped on it, and then a sense of unease spread throughout Raditz's body. You. Before he could say these words, Qinyang carried out the second and last part of the experiment, absorbing energy. Like being attracted by a magnet, Raditz's energy was continuously injected into Qinyang's body, and Qinyang was also slowly looking for something. This process lasted for a while. Qinyang frowned, and suddenly he found the kind of thing he longed for, mysterious energy, and sure enough, in a certain space, the Saiyans are closely connected to that energy. Qinyang suddenly opened his eyes with a look of joy on his face. He said to Raditz under his feet, are you so capable? I don't know if Raditz can still hear it at this time. In short, after Qinyang said this, the energy in Raditz has indeed intensified a lot. Qinyang continued to absorb the deepest mysterious energy, and the process of looking at his expression was like enjoying a top spar. Chapter 0938_Waste Raditz. But Qinyang doesn't think so, otherwise he will not be able to reach the 7 stars. In the future, he will move to a higher level. This is the realization of being a real powerhouse. There is no end. Enjoying is one thing, and never holding on to the attitude that you can drink tea forever is another matter. But the good times didn't last long. After an unknown amount of time, Qinyang suddenly felt that the energy was cut off, but according to his prediction, the Super Saiyans should not be so wasteful. According to their worldview, Super Saiyans' human energy is almost infinite, and no carrier can fully accommodate this power. Qinyang opened his eyes and looked at Raditz under his feet. He was bleeding from 7 orifices and died. How could this be? Qinyang couldn't help asking himself. But he found the answer right away. The reason was not the Super 027 Saiyan, nor himself, but Raditz. In other words, Raditz is really a waste. His body can't bear the potential he inspires. Even if Qinyang doesn't absorb the power from him in the future, this guy will die because of his own attributes. Alas, Qinyang sighed, waste is waste. It seems that even a character like Qinyang has miscalculations. This time, he was really surprised. This guy Raditz is really a complete waste. The body has advanced attributes, but the spirit does not. This is equivalent to pulling a sports car with a donkey. Qinyang can only secretly smile. It seems that the experimental target has to be changed. I don't know what the qualifications of the two guys are. Qinyang looks at the sky. Far away, light years away, 2 Saiyans are conquering an unknown planet with material resources. And Qin Yang also understood that not all energy comes from mysterious energy. This is like an extraction process, only about 1%, and what Qin Yang needs is that 1%. At the same time, I made an assumption, whether the higher the combat power of this person, the purity will also be improved. So in general, the experiment was a success, but Raditz's line was just cut off, and Qin Yang felt unwilling. Perhaps Qin Yang has not tasted the wonderful feeling of mysterious power for a long time. But this is not easy. While Raditz's body was still warm, Qin Yang raised his hand, and Raditz's soul returned to him. When he opened his eyes again, Qin Yang, who was like a devil, was looking at him. Look at yourself with strange eyes. This time, Raditz is no longer the reckless fool. He who died once knew Qin Yang's strength very well, and without waiting for him to react, the incomparably tormented state was imposed on him again. Time wailed again. When Qin Yang lost interest, Raditz was resurrected almost 3 times. What made Qin Yang lose his interest was that the mysterious energy in Raditz's body was too low. Even if he came back to revive him, it would not be worth anything at all, even far less than a devil fruit. It seems that we have to continue to cultivate. Qin Yang completely gave up the Raditz line. After all, the main dish of this world has not yet appeared, and when that moment comes, Qin Yang feels that he will not be disappointed. But after calming down, Qin Yang felt compelled to use Raditz again, because without him, Sun Wukong and others would not rush to Namek in the future, nor would they open the Realm of Kings. It seems that this waste has some value. However, Qin Yang looked back at the corpse on the ground. This time he would not use the thumping method of resurrection. It's better, just use this. Qin Yang conjures a scroll out of thin air, seals his hands, and the ghoul is reborn. With a puff, a coffin appeared in front of Qin Yang, and when the coffin door opened, Raditz appeared in front of Qin Yang. Qin Yang pointed his hand, and a detector appeared on Raditz's face immediately. Next, what Qin Yang has to do is the familiar plot, which may become a little different because of Qin Yang's manipulation. After walking out of this different dimensional world, Qin Yang also gave Raditz an order. To say that this technique is really useful, otherwise Raditz would not follow Qin Yang's arrangement so easily. But also because of this, Qin Yang had to go to Baik Natong again, destroys the memory of his meeting with him and implants a rival in his mind, asking him to go to the ghost house. On a certain island, in a ghost house, Wukong and his son are holding a barbecue banquet with old friends, and an uninvited guest arrives like this, not only telling Sun Wukong's life experience, but also robbing his son, and leaving a message for him to come find own. In the face of such a powerful enemy, the former enemy Bic proposed to practice, and the two rushed to the vicinity of the Raditz spaceship together. Soon, the strongest duo of Sun Wukong Piccolo arrived and had a desperate battle with Raditz. In the end, Raditz and Sun Wukong, the brothers, both died in Piccolo's trick, and all this it was clearly seen by the other 2 Saiyans far away, light years away, and they would rush to Earth in a year. For everyone, a year-long special training began like this. At this point, although the timeline has moved back a little bit, the overall development is still in order. But Qin Yang won't wait for this year, he wants to skip this year, no, or about half a year, because around that time, Sun Wukong's soul just reached the end of the Dragon Road, which means that the real king has been discovered. The world, and there is a world that Qin Yang is interested in. But to go there, you have to go to the underworld of this world first. There is no death in this world, and after everyone dies, the soul will come to a transit station, and the king of hell will judge whether to go to heaven or hell. It also involves the Tao of reincarnation. Therefore, this underworld is indeed more systematic and stricter than the previous world. For the current Qin Yang, these have long been ignored. Since Qin Yang came here, only the level of the Realm King may still be able to discover him. Otherwise, let alone any master, even the life and death of the underworld Qin Yang's name will not exist in the book. No, with the effort of the community, Qin Yang has traveled through half a year to the underworld Dragon Road, and there, a young man exuding vitality is running on it. Thinking about it, Qin Yang watched him silently while hiding himself. At the same time, he said silently, I never thought we would want to see Sun Wukong so much. Chapter 0939-King Realm. The space where the king exists is not this dimension, and the underworld here is only equivalent to a world close to the core area of the universe. The world of the king exists near there. It is a zone close to nothingness. It is an endless hell with a white cloud floating on it. The world of Kaiwang is above that cloud. That mini-planet is only about the size of an island. As for the Realm King, that is, Fatian, who is about to teach Wukong Realm King boxing and vitality bombs, of course he confined it with Qin Yang's ability, but doing so is equivalent to using a golden finger. You want to lie there watching the show and do it yourself for 5 minutes, even though it takes a while to lie down, but why, 5 minutes? Someone is chasing Qin Yang. Absolutely not. Then why did Qin Yang lie down comfortably and wait for the thing he wanted to be automatically delivered to his mouth? It's like doing things while watching TV. This is the true meaning of the 7-star level. Once it reaches a certain level, it doesn't need to work too hard. Everything is on his 5 fingers. The only thing he has to do is to wait for the good show he weaved to finally end. How to develop? It can be said that the king's full strength in this Dragon Ball world is not small. It can be called the god with the largest official position in the midterm setting, surpassing the gods on Earth and the Hades in charge of the underworld. He is in charge of the entire northern part of the galaxy, and also the king of the northern realm. As for the world king gods, Quanwang, etc., that appeared later, it is still a later story, but if he wants to know the connection behind them, Qin Yang has to start here first. It's like a series of clues, and it's fun to follow the rules step by step. Watching Sun Wukong begin to tell jokes with the king, everything develops as in the original. And Qin Yang didn't come here to watch Sun Wukong practice. He completely hid his aura when they weren't paying attention and sneaked into this planet. 10 times the gravity is not painful to Qin Yang now, but Qin Yang closed his eyes at this time, and a very small but unignorable energy wave began to spread along the gap of the planet, even if it passed through the Realm Kings. The other party around him didn't notice it at all. This is a manifestation of strength that is not in one dimension. Soon, when Qin Yang opened his eyes again, the scanning process was over. 7 Qin Yang smiled. As he expected, the core power that supports the realm of the realm comes from the mysterious energy in the distance. It seems that this is another big breakthrough. If it is more conceptual, the mysterious energy of this world seems to be placed in a hidden space and is not dispersed like other worlds, and the entrance to this mysterious world is much more interesting. It is now known there are 2 ways. One is after the Saiyans are converted into super forms, and the other is an existence like Kaiwang. It seems that a higher level, such as the world of Kaiwangshan, is much more interesting than here. Now that he has achieved his goal, there is no need for Qin Yang to stay here. There is still half a year before another Saiyan arrives on Earth. Although not much has changed, the timeline here is already half a year later, which is when the decisive battle in the storyline of Sun Wukong is about to be fought. Qin Yang's figure flashed again, and the battle was going on in full swing in front of him. The people who had undergone inhuman training surrounded this Saiyan with a bald and strong head that looked like a cow, and the other was short, but his brows were full of eyes. A murderous spiky-haired man, who was later promoted to one of the protagonists in the Dragon Ball world, Vegeta, the prince of the Saiyans. As for the big bald man, his name was Nabil. It seems that the game of Vegeta is currently underway. This is an interesting passage in the original book. Vegeta ordered Nabil to cultivate people from the middle and lower levels in order to test the strength of Piccolo and others, which is a kind of low IQ. A creature that can be eaten or used as a brainless soldier, but it is not weak in combat. Or to say that Raditz is a waste, this low-level second-rate warrior can only have a force value similar to that of a cultivator. And Vegeta and Nabil, these 2 Saiyans came to the world like gods as soon as they appeared. In an instant, a city fell. After that, after dumplings, Yamcha, and Tianjin Bento, Nappa alone dominated. It seems that their only savior is Sun Wukong, who is coming from the underworld. But I can't say that completely. In this case, Piccolo didn't think the enemy was too strong, but himself. He felt that there was always a void in his body, and he couldn't use the power in that area. After all, he had already been developed by Qin Yang, but his memory was wiped out by Qin Yang. In terms of developing potential, the qualification of the developer is one thing, and the developer is another. It's like the height they stood. Later, although Keelan and Lunch had their potential developed by the elders, they were still not as good as Frieza. This is because the elders could only see so much potential in these two people. If Qin Yang was replaced, that's another story. There is also the fact that development does not mean compulsory mining. Just like with Raditz, it is very likely that the potential to be dug out is beyond the control of the current character itself, or the will is too fragile. At this point in time, it just so happened that Nabil started to show his might, and he was enveloped in a lot of energy, which caused Piccolo and Krillin to fight hard. And when it comes to this Nabas, another thing has to be said. You said that the hair of the Saiyans after they evolved to be Super Saiyans is the golden color of the crown, but what about Nabas? Qin Yang is very curious. But after all, time waits for no one. Thinking that when Monkey King arrives soon after, Naba is not an opponent after several fights. It is estimated that he would not have thought that he would be killed by the boss Vegeta himself. To say that this scene is also because Vegeta was too young at the time. It is estimated that after the transformation of his mind, he secretly regretted the death of Nabas. After all, there were only a few Saiyans in the universe at that time. Why should the descendants of the compatriots cannibalism? But don't forget what Qin Yang is here for. Can he do something here with him? Chapter 0940-Teacher and Apprentice Love. Don't take it lightly, guys. And GT. And considering that Sun Wukong and others can adjust their combat power according to the flow of Qi, Vegeta calculated that the 5,000 must be the minimum value, so he immediately ordered the killer to Nabil. Nabil, kill them. Once the three of them practice their skills, it will be difficult to do. Nabil was also a little confused for a while. Originally he kept Piccolo to get the Dragon Balls, but he didn't want Vegeta to reveal the secret. Piccolo is from Namek, so according to rumors, Name the Nemesis must still have Dragon Ball. And even better on this Earth. This made him guess, but at the same time, he also laid the root of the disaster for himself, because on the other side of the universe, a tyrant named Frieza also heard the story, but these are still later. Qin Yang will definitely visit Frieza. At that time, Nabil didn't believe in evil, thinking that Sun Wukong's combat effectiveness was the result of a malfunction of the detector, and this extreme self-confidence also led to his defeat even though he had the opportunity to fight back. However, there were some twists and turns in this process. Gohan challenged Nabil to lose. Piccolo helped Gohan to block the gun and tasted death for the first time, so Piccolo told his heart before his death, and he has since then the father of a generation of demon kings who turned to Son Gohan. And this is why Qin Yang admires Piccolo so much, but since Raditz is too useless, he can only let him die here first. To say that this pair of master and apprentice really started to bond, it is quite emotional. Although Qin Yang did not watch the pair of master and apprentice in the past year, there are some memories that cannot be forgotten. For example, Vic said a sentence before he practiced, "Maybe the people I train will become my rivals in the future." Later, I didn't expect that Gohan had become Piccolo's pride. Because Piccolo had exerted all of his power, when the big wave released by Frieza bounced off, only Piccolo, who was bruised and bruised, bounced off the wave, without a single complaint, just a silent compliment, "Gohan, you are proud." Later, when Gohan was recovering in the hospital, he got news of the spaceship, and he talked back with his mother, for the sake of Piccolo. No longer the timid kid he used to be, he started to grow up. And Piccolo, as a devil, gave up his life for a kid. Only his own parents would lose their lives for their children, so Piccolo was like Gohan's second father, the invisible concern and the instant abandonment of his own life. Piccolo's death is great. Maybe why Piccolo has a good relationship with Wukong in the later period, because Piccolo envies Goku and has such a good son. In this year, Gohan and Piccolo have been together for about half a year. During this half year, Gohan was the first person to see Piccolo as a human being, and Piccolo was ruthless but he was enlightened. Moved by fans' kindness, Piccolo helped Gohan all the time during the past 6 months, which left a deep impression on Gohan's young mind. And this time Piccolo died for his own life, and Gohan was truly moved. In the following years, Piccolo spent 3 years with Gohan day and night. Although I don't know what happened in these 3 years, these 3 years have made Gohan and Piccolo even more intimate, and Piccolo has gotten to know Gohan better and become more know what Gohan likes. Although Goku is often with Gohan, he doesn't understand Gohan at all. He doesn't know what Gohan needs most, but Piccolo knows Gohan's heart very clearly. In the Sharu game, we know Piccolo is the best. For those who know Gohan, at that time Gohan was abused very badly by Sharu, but Wukong didn't want to help Gohan and just wanted Sharu to bring out the potential of Gohan, but Piccolo reminded Wukong and told Wukong that Wuhan wanted the most now. What's more, his father can help him instead of watching him being abused by Shalu. Wukong finally woke up, but he was abused by Xiao Shalu before he could eat fairy beans. After Gohan and Goku finished their training in the spiritual time room, Piccolo saw the normal-looking Super Saiyan, Son Gohan, and couldn't help but wonder, is that still Gohan? Completely different. Gohan has already imprinted a shadow that needs protection in Piccolo's heart, but in the face of Gohan like this, Piccolo's heart is very complicated. Maybe Gohan has really grown up and can be on his own. In fact, in Qin Yang's view, Piccolo was very lonely until he met Gohan. Piccolo is like a troubled child in class. He is very happy on the surface, but he is very lonely on the inside. Maybe not everyone can understand this pain. But I miss my missus, and I sigh with emotion. As a strong man, Qin Yang will not be entangled by emotions. Now Wukong has arrived and rescued his son at the critical moment. He counted the battlefield, except for Krillin and Gohan, all the others were killed, and this anger also stimulated his potential. As for Nabis still in the boundless arrogance, he said boldly, "It's hard to see the death of your comrades, they are not bad, that little dwarf has been smashed to pieces, but don't be sad, because you will soon die. It's time to reunite." After that, he did not forget to remind, "Resurrection is not easy, why did you come here to die?" Qin Yang has to admire this point. In terms of saying awesome words, Qin Yang is indeed inferior to these Saiyans. On the other side, Vegeta is still a sinister guy at this time, the detector on his head is constantly calculating, and Sun Wukong's combat power is rising little by little with anger. Sun Wukong kept thinking about his friends, as if he no longer had Nabil in his eyes. And Nabil also felt that this guy must have come to die if he walked in front of him in 5.9 so unevenly and slowly. "Oh, are you in a hurry to die?" Nabis greeted him, and then punched out. "This punch is a welcome gift for you." But where did he know that Sun Wukong had already jumped past him, walked over to Krillin and Gohan and handed the fairy beans to them. Vegeta praised from the other side, "The speed is not bad." But after Goku and Krillin had some warm-hearted greetings, they walked to Nabil again. Nabil couldn't see the form clearly at this time, and said, "Why do you look so unhappy, and come to die in such a hurry?" And Wukong seems to be calm at the moment, but in fact the anger value has reached the fixed point. At the moment when he exerted force, a storm followed, and the sand and gravel filled the sky, blowing people's eyes. "I won't let you go. Shan."